Chapter 1121. After making the decision, the Snow Air Emperor, Yi Chen, and the 4 purple gold leaders left the square together, rushing toward the palace on the other side. Shoo 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 shoo. As soon as the 6 left the square, they were surrounded by hundreds of stone statues. Follow me. The Snow Air Emperor's hands were ice blue, and there was a cold vortex in each of her palms. With a low shout, she pushed out her palms, creating 2 ice walls that were hundreds of miles long. The 6 of them were in between the 2 ice walls. The stone statues were very powerful, and the ice walls kept breaking. However, breaking the ice walls required a moment, which was enough for the 6 of them to travel hundreds of miles. Then, 2 more ice walls were created, and the cycle repeated. With the ice walls as a barrier, the 6 of them successfully reached the palace on the other side. Not many people could reach the palace on the other side. 4 demons, 6 humans and beasts, and 2 green men, for a total of 12 people. The space inside the palace was very wide. Even if a planet with a diameter of 10,000 miles was stuffed inside, it would not feel crowded. Compared to the palace, Yi Chen and the others were like dust. The 4 devil men and the 2 green men stood there in a daze, looking up at the end of the palace. At the end of the palace stood a 10,000 miles tall stone stele. Apart from that, nothing else could be found in the palace. Should we kill them? The purple gold leader beside the Snow Air Emperor suggested. How could he not see that whether it was the demon general, the dark commander of the demon race, or the emerald commander of the green men race, they had all fallen into a strange state. In this state, their vigilance must have been greatly reduced, which was the best time to kill them. The Snow Air Emperor shook his head. The danger of death will wake them up. The possibility of killing them is not high. Instead of that, we might as well see what secrets the stone tablet has. Then forget it. The purple gold leader who suggested this also felt that it would not be easy to kill the enemies. With a bitter smile, he immediately gave up on this idea. Raising their heads, the 6 of them looked at the stone tablet. The stone tablet was 30,000 miles wide and 10,000 miles tall. On it were countless dots and lines. The dots twinkled like stars, and the lines were messy. Some were straight, some were crooked, some were deep, some were shallow, some were thick, and some were thin. None of them were repeated. After a few breaths, the 6 of them also fell into a strange state. In Yi Chen's eyes, the dots and lines on the stone tablet seemed to have come alive. The stone tablet was like a vast starry sky, the dots were like endless stars, and the lines were like the connections between everything in the world. Everything seemed to be in disorder, but it was actually in order. There was no absolute boundary between disorder and order, only an inseparable connection. Crackle. A bolt of lightning streaked across the Soul Sea, lighting up the surface of the sea. Countless fragmented pieces of information that seemed unrelated but were actually closely related were captured by Yi Chen. In the next instant, the dots and lines in Yi Chen's eyes changed again. The dot was a golden sun, surrounded by flames, shining brightly. The line connected the 3 together. No matter how stupid Yi Chen was, he knew that this was the secret of the extreme sun essence. Involuntarily, Yi Chen pulled out the dragon spring sword and started practicing the sun essence extreme sword art. But in fact, Yi Chen didn't move at all, neither did he pull out the dragon spring sword. So that's how it is. Yi Chen's sword art became more and more profound, more and more immeasurably profound. Gradually, Yi Chen's sword movements merged with the lines on the stone tablet. The tip of the sword became the dot on the stone tablet, flickering, yet extremely bright. As Yi Chen swung the sword, an extremely dazzling sword chi darted out. This sword chi was different from the usual sword chi. In the past, the sword chi had been moving in a straight line, but now, although it was still moving in a straight line, it had changed qualitatively. A trace of black had appeared in the sword chi, and it was this trace of black that had boosted the power of the extreme sun essence. The extreme sun essence. Although the extreme sun essence was still a 3rd revolution sword art, its power had reached the extreme limit of the 3rd revolution sword art. Even though the extreme sun essence had been upgraded to the extreme sun essence, Yi Chen hadn't finished comprehending. In his eyes, the dots and lines on the stone tablet had changed again. The dots were virtual dots, while the lines were spatial trajectories. Those intertwined lines seemed to be intertwining with each other, but in fact, they were thousands of miles away from each other. 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, 4 dimensions, countless lines propped up a never-ending space. The space was boundless, but there were nodes. These nodes provided the rules and stability. When the lines and the dots intersected, all the changes disappeared, and the space froze. This time, it was the profoundness of momentary glory. Momentary glory contained the profound of space, which was not an ordinary profound. When the profound of space reached the extreme sun essence, Yi Chen didn't know how strong it would be. He had been guessing, but looking at the dots and lines on the stone tablet, Yi Chen knew that once the profound of space reached the extreme sun essence, its power would be 10 times or even 100 times stronger than what he had imagined. It might even surpass the 3rd revolution sword art and reach the 4th revolution sword art. Moreover, whether or not momentary glory could fully display the profoundness of space was still unknown. Perhaps in the future, Yi Chen could create an even stronger profound of space sword arts. Of course, Yi Chen's current profound of space was only at 80% completion. It was still too far away from reaching the extreme sun essence. As for the current momentary glory, its power was similar to the white dragon exterminating the world. It was an ordinary 3rd revolution sword art. Dots and lines, dots and dot, dots and dot, lines and lines. Gradually, Yi Chen's comprehension of the profound of space became deeper and deeper. His comprehension of the momentary glory became deeper and deeper. When he stabbed out, the path of the sword changed, and the power that erupted was enough to freeze the space and destroy everything. After an unknown amount of time, Yi Chen stabbed out again. This time, the path of the sword was ethereal. It looked like it was in the sky, but it was actually right in front of him. As the sword stabbed out, the space suddenly froze. No, it was not as simple as just freezing. The world seemed to have shrunk, and distance was no longer an obstacle. Under this sword, even ghosts and gods couldn't escape. The profound of space was almost at 90% completion. At this moment, the power of the momentary glory was only slightly weaker than the extreme sun essence, but the attack method surpassed it. In different people's eyes, the dots and lines on the stone stele were different. Yi Chen's sword art was improving by leaps and bounds, and the 11 people who were comprehending were also improving rapidly. But at this moment, what was important was comprehension. The higher one's comprehension was, the faster they would comprehend, and the greater the effect of the stone stele. Yi Chen's comprehension wasn't unique, but it was still rare in the world. After raising 2 sword arts to the peak of the 3rd revolution, Yi Chen's comprehension continued. He was comprehending the 3rd supreme sword art. The dots were seeds, and the lines were lightning and fire. Wood profound, thunder profound, and fire profound, these 3 profounds were intertwined. Fire could burn wood. Lightning could also strike trees and create a big fire. Between the 3, there was a definite connection. Among the 12 people, the first to wake up was the Emerald Commander of the Green Men race, the Blue Devil King. The Blue Devil King was nearly 3 meters tall, and his green muscles were extremely developed, containing unfathomable power. Behind him, a thick crocodile-like tail dragged on the ground. Looking around, his expression turned gloomy. Among the 12 people, he was the first to wake up, which meant that his comprehension was the lowest. How could he, who had always been conceited, not take a blow? After all, he was also an Emerald Commander in the Green Men race, and there were less than 20 Emerald Commanders in the Green Men race. He could be said to be the elite of the elites, the expert of the experts. My Blue Devil Fist has already reached the 3rd revolution, and it has improved a lot just now. Other than the Demons General and that Human General, the rest might not be my match. Demons can't move. Humans and demons. The Blue Devil King's gaze shifted from the 4 demons to Yi Chen and the other 5 people. Hee. Silently, the Blue Devil King moved toward Yi Chen. Among the 6 people, Yi Chen was only a commander-in-chief. In the Blue Devil King's opinion, he should be the weakest. Moreover, even if Yi Chen had the strength of a purple gold commander, he was 100% confident that he could kill him in one strike. Die. Leaping up, The Blue Devil King punched toward Yi Chen's head. A blue fist force penetrated through his body and transformed into a blue demon head, biting toward Yi Chen. Third Revolution Martial Art, Blue Devil Fist. Seeing that the fist force was about to hit Yi Chen suddenly moved. Without opening his eyes, he pulled out the Dragon Spring sword purely by instinct and slashed out. This sword was extremely fast and fiery. It was as if this sword could burn a world, a part of heaven and earth. Third Revolution Extreme Sword Art, True Inferno Sword. The Blue Devil King's expression changed to one of extreme fear. The fist force he had sent out was like spring snow meeting the scorching sun, melting away into nothingness. In the next moment, his chest was hit by the sword. If it was any other martial art, this sword strike would at most cut him into pieces through the Heavenly King armor, and he could still recover with his immortal body. However, Yi Chen's sword strike had transmitted a domineering and fiery sword force through the Heavenly King armor. This fiery sword force was using his body as fuel, burning fiercely and filling the air with electric arcs. Ah! The Blue Devil King only had time to let out a miserable cry before he was completely burned, turning into a wisp of green smoke and dissipating. The True Inferno Sword's first wave of lethality might not be as strong as the Sun Essence transformation, but it was strong in the aftermath. As long as one came into contact with a little of the True Inferno Sword's sword force, they would immediately suffer the pain of being burned by raging fire and being devoured by violent lightning. If one was slightly weaker, they would be burned into nothingness on the spot, and their soul imprint would be obliterated. The True Inferno Sword combined with the Destruction Sword intent wasn't something to be trifled with. The Blue Devil King wasn't weak, barely having the strength of a mid-level combat emperor. If it was the previous Yi Chen, he definitely wouldn't be able to kill him with a single sword strike. However, the current Yi Chen was improving at a godly speed, and mid-level combat emperors were no longer his match. As for the True Inferno Sword, it was formed by Yi Chen's fusion of the heavenly lightning and earthly fire and the raging spring incineration. These two extreme Second Revolution sword arts contained the profound meaning of fire, and when fused together, there was simply nothing that it couldn't burn. After killing the Blue Devil King, Yi Chen still hadn't woken up. Just now, he had only instinctively sensed danger and instinctively attacked. He could only blame the Blue Devil King for having evil thoughts and getting killed instead. The strange thing was that despite such a huge commotion, no one present was awakened. Come to think of it, the influence of the monolith in the palace was too great. As long as they didn't sense any danger, they wouldn't be awakened. As for Yi Chen, he was even more immersed in it. Even if he sensed danger, he still wouldn't be awakened. Chapter 1122. True Inferno Sword was Yi Chen's third peak Third Revolution sword art, each of which had its own specialties. Extreme Sun Essence Transformation pursued the pinnacle of attacks. Momentary Glory pursued the splendor of a single sword. Even ghosts and gods would find it hard to escape. True Inferno Sword's aftershock was frightening, incinerating everything. With these three peak Third Revolution sword arts, Yi Chen's sword arts had reached a limit that he wouldn't be able to break through for a long time. The only things left for him to break through were Cultivation Base, Sword Domain, and Sword Soul. As for Cultivation Base, it couldn't be rushed. He was already at the 5th layer of Life and Death Realm, and wanting to break through to the 6th layer would take at least 100 or 200 years. After all, he had to build a solid foundation and accumulate power for the 7th layer. He couldn't rush to the 6th layer as soon as possible and lose his foundation, which would be very short-sighted. Of course, with the Time Tower, he could shorten the time by 100 times. 100 or 200 years by 100 times was only 1 or 2 years, which wasn't too long. As for Sword Domain, it couldn't be rushed. The higher one's Sword Domain was, the harder it would be to improve. It wasn't like Cultivation Base, which could be improved as long as one had enough time. It was the embodiment of a sword artist's Sword Dao cultivation. The higher the realm of Sword Dao, the stronger the Sword Domain. Without sufficient foundation in Sword Dao, it would be hard to achieve anything in one's lifetime. On the other hand, Sword Soul had great potential. Yi Chen possessed two great Sword Souls. Immortal Sword Soul had long since reached the 7th step. As long as Destruction Sword Soul also reached the 7th step, the two 7th step Sword Souls would resonate and advance by leaps and bounds. He could already feel that Destruction Sword Soul was showing signs of breaking through. It should be known that there was a huge gap between the 7th step and 8th step for ordinary martial souls or sword souls. Countless people were stuck at this point. Even titled monarchs of the 7th layer couldn't make any progress. Yi Chen's 7th step Immortal Sword Soul was equivalent to an ordinary 8th step Sword Soul, and his peak 6th step Destruction Sword Soul was equivalent to a peak 7th step Sword Soul. In terms of Sword Soul, he was a bit stronger than some titled monarchs. After creating the true Inferno Sword, Yi Chen still hadn't woken up. On the steely, dots and lines combined, transforming into sword chi. These sword chi were illusory and traceless, as if they had never existed. It can't be ordinary sword chi. Ordinary sword chi shouldn't be so illusory, as if it doesn't exist. Could it be soul sword chi? An idea flashed through Yi Chen's mind. Yi Chen's guess was right. The stone tablet was displaying the soul sword chi. There were many different kinds of soul attacks. Some soul attacks could turn soul power into hammers to smash the enemy's soul, or turn it into sharp arrows, or turn it into a golden ring to entangle the enemy's soul. Soul attacks couldn't be compared to martial arts. It was extremely difficult to control, and even more difficult to create. Moreover, it consumed a lot of soul power. Therefore, soul attacks had always been used as support in battle. No one would waste most of their time on cultivating soul attack secret arts. The gains didn't make up for the losses. However, this didn't mean that the soul attack wasn't important. If the soul attack was strong, it would give you a trump card that your enemy would be afraid of. After all, if your enemy couldn't defend against your soul attack, their soul would definitely be heavily injured, and their combat power would decrease. In this way, the effect of the soul attack could be imagined. As for the soul sword chi, one could tell from its form that it was extremely terrifying. Ordinary soul defenses would probably be easily sliced apart by the soul sword chi. Carefully observing the combination of dots and lines on the stone tablet, Yi Chen tried to arrange his soul power to form a soul sword chi. Buzz! A soul sword chi shot out, but it scattered midway. The arrangement was still not tight enough, nor was it stable enough. While Yi Chen was studying the soul sword chi, Tyrant Sword King, one of the 4 purple gold commanders beside him, woke up. This is great. My Tyrant Sword King hasn't improved for decades. I didn't expect it to improve so much this time. It saved me decades of hard work. Tyrant Sword King smiled. Why are there armors and weapons scattered on the ground? Tyrant Sword King inadvertently noticed the armor and gloves not far in front of Yi Chen. Who killed the Blue Devil King? An angry roar was heard. Another Emerald Greenman commander, Green Shadow King, also woke up. Seeing that the Blue Devil King was not there, he looked around and quickly found the Blue Devil King's equipment. Did you kill the Blue Devil King? Other than him, only Tyrant Sword King was awake. Green Shadow King stared at Tyrant Sword King with murderous intent. Chimph, I didn't kill him. Tyrant Sword King did not look too good. If you didn't kill him, then why did the Blue Devil King die? Green Shadow King had his eyes set on Tyrant Sword King. Tyrant Sword King smiled coldly. So what if I did kill him? You green men are the enemies of humans. You deserve to die. You're courting death. Green Shadow King's figure flashed and turned into a green shadow, charging toward Tyrant Sword King. Get lost. Clang. Tyrant Sword King pulled out his sword and slashed. Saber chi flew everywhere. The two fought for a while. The ghost-clawed Lion King, one of the 3 purple gold commanders beside Yi Chen, opened its eyes. Tyrant Sword King, I'll help you. Without any hesitation, the ghost-clawed Lion King pounced and joined forces with Tyrant Sword King to attack Green Shadow King. Green Shadow King's strength was not as strong as Tyrant Sword King. Now that the ghost-clawed Lion King had joined forces, it was forced to retreat. It looked like it was about to be injured by the two. Humans and demons are really shameless. Bullying with numbers. Very well, let me, the Tiger Demon King, have a taste of your skills. On the other side, the Dark Commander of the Demons, the Tiger Demon King, joined the battle. The Tiger Demon King was a demonic beast, which was equivalent to a demon beast. Gradually, other than Yi Chen, the Snow Air Emperor, the general of the demons, and the demons, the witch of the demons, who had yet to regain their senses, the rest of the people had regained consciousness. The battle on the battlefield was intense, and energy was everywhere. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. Let's kill that general of the demons. With 4 against 3, the humans and demons had the upper hand. At that moment, the Flying Blade King, one of the purple gold commanders, suddenly locked onto the general of the demons and shot 49 flying blades at it. If you want to die, I'll grant your wish. However, the general of the demons did not know if it had sensed the impending danger, or if it had woken up a step earlier. Seeing the sudden attack of the flying blades, it did not even think twice and threw a punch. Pitter-patter. The powerful fist force not only smashed the 49 flying blades into pieces, but the flying blade fragments even rolled back, turning the Flying Blade King into minced meat. His soul imprint was obliterated, but the flying blade fragments' momentum did not dissipate. They went straight for the defenseless Snow Air Emperor and Yi Chen. It seemed that the general of the demons intended to kill them all in one fell swoop. The Snow Air Emperor opened her eyes, and with a shout, she struck out with her palm. The temperature of the air dropped by 1,000 times, and an ice wall froze the flying blade fragments and the terrifying fist force that was mixed in with the flying blade fragments. Demon Fist Emperor, it seems that your revolving fist force is not that great. The Snow Air Emperor sneered. The general of the demons was also a 3-star general, and his title was the Demon Fist Emperor. The revolving fist force was very powerful, and it could turn other people's attacks into his own to counterattack the opponent. Although the Flying Blade King was a purple gold commander and had the strength to challenge ordinary emperors, he was still much weaker than the Demon Fist Emperor. Coupled with the uniqueness of the revolving fist force, it was equivalent to being attacked by the Demon Fist Emperor and himself together. It would be strange if he did not die. Boasting shamelessly. The Demon Fist Emperor let out a deep roar, and the demonic power belonging to the 7th layer of life and death realm ferociously erupted. For a moment, black chi curled up, and demonic shadows soared. A frightening pressure swept out in all directions. The reason why 7th layer life and death realm experts could become emperors was because they had already broken through the Anatta Emperor realm and condensed the Emperor imprint. The Emperor imprint fused with their own energy, allowing them to perfectly display every bit of power. Although battle emperors had the strength to fight ordinary emperors, that was only in terms of attacking power. In terms of foundation, they were far inferior to emperors. Bang! When the demonic power was pushed to the limit, the Demon Fist Emperor fiercely punched out. The powerful fist force even caused the void to freeze. Although the Dark Profound was inferior to the Space Profound, it similarly contained the power to freeze all living things. When used by the Demon Fist Emperor, the might of this attack was actually not inferior to that of Yi Chen. From this, one could see how frightening the Demon Fist Emperor's strength was. Ice Seal. The Snow Air Emperor's palm arts contained the Water Profound, Ice Profound, and Wind Profound. The 3 great profounds fused together, creating a frighteningly low temperature. It should be known that when the temperature dropped to a certain level, the void would also freeze, and even time would stop flowing. Although the Snow Air Emperor was far from being able to do so, he was already not inferior to the Demon Fist Emperor's Dark Fist energy. Pop! The Dark Fist energy and the freezing palm energy collided. There was no earth-shaking explosion, only a black and white light sphere. The light sphere rapidly expanded and eventually exploded, seeming to have exhausted all of its power. Snow Air Emperor, take my sacred soul arrow. It wasn't the Demon Fist Emperor who launched the attack, but the demon girl who emitted a sacred aura. She opened her eyes, and a sharp arrow made of soul power shot out, sinking into the Snow Air Emperor's sea of soul. The Snow Air Emperor's face paled. This sacred soul arrow was extremely overbearing. Her soul defense had already cracked, and if she were to use it again, there would definitely be a gap in her soul defense. Moreover, she was currently fighting the Demon Fist Emperor and couldn't divert her attention to deal with this demon girl. This demon girl was rather cunning. Knowing that she couldn't help the Demon Fist Emperor in terms of combat power, she chose to use soul attacks. Hehe, Looks like you're going to die here. The demon girl smiled coquettishly and launched another sacred soul arrow at the Snow Air Emperor. Puff. Nothingness collided. The holy soul arrow dissipated in the air. What dispersed it was a sharp sword chi. This sword chi was formed from soul power. Soul sword chi. The demon girl was shocked and looked at Yi Chen. The one who launched the soul sword chi was naturally Yi Chen. He had already woken up. Let me help you. As he spoke to the Snow Air Emperor, Yi Chen launched 2 soul sword chi at the Demon Fist Emperor. The demon girl's expression changed slightly. She had already launched 2 sacred soul arrows, which consumed a lot of her soul power. If she launched 2 more, she wouldn't be able to use soul attacks anymore, or it would affect her combat power. However, she couldn't not help the Demon Fist Emperor. The Demon Fist Emperor could fight against the Snow Air Emperor, but she didn't have the strength. Swish swish. 2 sacred soul arrows went against the soul sword chi. However, what surprised her was that the soul sword chi was extremely flexible, like a swordsman displaying a peerless sword art. The sacred soul arrow only blocked 1 soul sword chi, while the other cut the soul C of the Demon Fist Emperor. The Demon Fist Emperor groaned and felt a splitting headache. Yi Chen's soul sword chi had actually torn a hole in his soul defense. The soul sword chi penetrated and wreaked havoc. Although it wasn't enough to seriously injure his soul, it was still dangerous. As long as Yi Chen launched another soul sword chi, he could only escape. Boom! Chi exploded as the Demon Fist Emperor shook off the Snow Air Emperor and pulled away. Chapter 1123. Everyone stop! The Demonic Fist Emperor yelled. Although they were unwilling, the Tiger Demon King and the other Dark Commanders all stopped. The Green Shadow King was weak, and naturally, he would know when to stop. Demonic Fist Emperor, searching for the miraculous relic is more important. Let's not bother with them this time, the witch whispered to the Demonic Fist Emperor. The Demonic Fist Emperor nodded. He did not plan to continue fighting, or else he would not have asked everyone to stop. Of course, this did not mean that he was afraid of the other party. If they really fought, it was hard to tell who would win. Let's go. The Demonic Fist Emperor stared at the Snow Air Emperor and Yi Chen before turning to leave. The others followed. Farewell, Demonic Fist Emperor. The Snow Air Emperor smiled. The next time we meet, you won't be so lucky. The Demonic Fist Emperor's voice came from afar. At least they know what's good for them. The Tyrant Sword King glanced at the armor and weapons left behind by the Flying Sword King. It was a pity that the Flying Sword King was too impulsive. If he did not attack the Demonic Fist Emperor, he would not have died. If we really fight, it will only be a lose-lose situation. It's not worth it. The Snow Air Emperor let out a sigh and said. Yi Chen faintly nodded. Although the Demonic Fist Emperor had been struck by his soul sword chi, another one would at most severely injure his soul. As a demon general, he certainly had many tricks up his sleeve. Moreover, that dark goddess was not a pushover either. The might of the sacred soul arrow was only slightly inferior to his soul sword chi. Searching for the miraculous relic is more important. Everyone be careful. Emperor Shui Kong glanced at the monolith and shook his head. When he looked at the monolith again, he could no longer immerse himself in that wondrous state of enlightenment. It seemed that this monolith could only allow them to comprehend the Tao once in a short period of time. Thinking about it, the reason why they could comprehend the Tao, other than the mysteriousness of the monolith, was related to their accumulation. Without knowledge, how could they comprehend it? There was a door on each side of the stone tablet. The Demonic Fist Emperor and the others entered through the door on the left, while Yi Chen, the Snow Air Emperor, and the others entered through the door on the right. There are so many doors. After passing through a corridor, they arrived at a spacious stone hall. In front of them were 108 doors. Of these 108 doors, 5 of them were sealed by walls of different colors. Break. The Snow Air Emperor slammed his palm against the chi wall. With a buzz, the chi wall rippled like water, dissipating the Snow Air Emperor's palm energy. Looks like someone has already entered the 5 doors. Could it be the Demonic Fist Emperor and the other 4? Ghost Claw Lion King guessed. Tyrant Sword King said, It should be them. Don't worry about them. We'll also choose a door to enter. The Snow Air Emperor immediately chose a door to enter. As she entered the door was immediately sealed by a blue chi wall. So each door only allows one person to enter. Yi Chen understood. Without any hesitation, Yi Chen also entered one of the doors. The next moment, the door behind him was sealed by a green chi wall. It was a very ordinary stone room. In the center of the stone room was a crystal pillar that was 10 meters tall. On the ground in front of the crystal pillar, a line of words was engraved: attack the crystal vibration pillar with all your strength. The higher the vibration, the better your reward. Remember, go all out. Attack the crystal vibration pillar with all my strength. Yi Chen was a little puzzled. He did not know what this crystal vibration pillar was. Of course, since he was asked to go all out, he would naturally do so. After all, this was related to his next reward. Buzz. 3 flowers appeared on top of his head. Yi Chen displayed the 3 flowers borrowing way. Yi Chen's Anatta realm was only at the first stage. The increase in combat power was not as great as the 3 flowers borrowing way. Once he reached the second stage, the 3 flowers borrowing way would truly be out of the picture. As for sword techniques, Yi Chen chose to use the Sun Essence Extreme. Of the 3 major sword techniques, Instant of Glory's attack was the most powerful, the True Inferno Sword's follow-up was the strongest, and the Sun Essence Extreme's frontal attack was worthy of being number 1. Circulating his true essence to the limit, Yi Chen took a deep breath and swung his sword. A dazzling sword aura shot out. Within the sword aura, there was a trace of black, causing the sword aura to emit a frightening pressure. Boom! The sword aura slashed heavily on the crystal vibration pillar. The next moment, a circle of red appeared under the crystal vibration pillar. The red grew higher and higher, almost turning the entire crystal vibration pillar red. 10,000. There was a scale on the crystal vibration pillar, and the red just happened to reach 10,000 scale. At the same time, the Snow Air Emperor and the others were also attacking the crystal vibration pillar. The Snow Air Emperor's was 1,000. The Tyrant Sword King's was 800. The Ghost-Clawed Lion King's was 700. Among the 5 stone rooms that the Demonic Fist Emperor and the Dark Goddess had entered, the Dark Goddess's scale was the highest at 2,400. The Demonic Fist Emperor and the Snow Air Emperor's were about the same, at 1,000. If Yi Chen knew everyone's scale, he would definitely be confused. The Snow Air Emperor and the Demonic Fist Emperor's battle power was higher than his. Even if it was not 10 times higher, it was at least 10 times higher. However, the Snow Air Emperor and the Demonic Fist Emperor's combined result was still not higher than his, equivalent to 1/5 of his. Only the Dark Goddess was slightly higher, but it was only 2,400. Rumble. At this moment, the stone room suddenly trembled and rose up like an elevator. About 10 breaths later, the stone room stopped moving. Crack. The originally seamless walls of the stone chamber suddenly parted, revealing an even larger stone chamber. An astonishing wave of heaven and earth yuan qi gushed out from it. Such a rich natural yuan qi. The natural yuan qi on the planet was very rich, but compared to the natural yuan qi in the stone room, it was not even 1%. Walking into this bigger stone room, Yi Chen's eyes immediately fell on a round object on the stone table. This round object was a bit like an ink stone. It was palm-sized and dark yellow in color. Walking closer, Yi Chen found that the inside of the ink stone was chaotic and almost empty. On the edge of the ink stone, there were 3 words: Yuan Stone Pool. Yuan Stone Pool? Yi Chen frowned and tried to pick up the Yuan Stone Pool. The Yuan Stone Pool was very light. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was as light as a feather. After thinking for a while, Yi Chen released his soul power and probed into the Yuan Stone Pool. How many Yuan stones is this? Yi Chen finally knew why this thing was called a Yuan Stone Pool. As soon as he sent his soul power in, Yi Chen was shocked. The Yuan Stone Pool had its own space, which was dozens of miles in radius. A wide river extended all the way to the end. This river was not water, but pieces of Yuan stones. In other words, countless Yuan stones had formed a Yuan Stone River. And at the source of the Yuan Stone River was a mountain peak. On the cliff of the mountain, there was a huge beast's head. The mouth of the beast's head was huge, but it was closed. Swoosh! Yi Chen's soul power turned into a huge hand, scooping out tens of thousands of yuan stones from the yuan stone pool into the real world. It is indeed yuan stones. Feeling the rich energy inside the yuan stone, Yi Chen was sure of it. Chapter 1124. Yi Chen soon found out how many yuan stones the Yuan Stone River was made of. After leaving the soul mark in the center of the Yuan Stone River, Yi Chen knew everything about the Yuan Stone River like the back of his hand. There were exactly 10 billion yuan stones in the Yuan Stone River. Although Yi Chen had taken out tens of thousands of yuan stones, the huge beast head at the source of the Yuan Stone River had opened its mouth and continuously spat out yuan stones. According to its speed, it could spit out 300,000 yuan stones a day, and 100 million a year. In other words, even if all the yuan stones were taken out, 100 years later, there would be another 10 billion yuan stones in the Yuan Stone River. This was an unscrupulous money tree, a treasure bowl. With this thought flashing through his mind, Yi Chen took out 10 million yuan stones at once and put them into his storage ring. In about a month, the Yuan Stone River would be filled up with these 10 million yuan stones, and Yi Chen would have another 10 million yuan stones. I don't need to worry about yuan stones anymore. Yi Chen let out a breath. A person's energy was limited, and it would be impossible for him to take care of everything. Whoever had more resources would undoubtedly have a natural advantage. With the Yuan Stone Pond, Yi Chen could let go of the idea of making yuan stones and focus all of his energy on his sword art. Everything would be for the sake of his sword art. Putting away the Yuan Stone River, Yi Chen started to look around the whole stone room. Unfortunately, besides the Yuan Stone River, there was nothing else in the stone room. Achem! On the edge of the stone platform where the Yuan Stone River was placed, Yi Chen found a grey button. If one did not look carefully, it would be hard to notice. He reached out his hand and pressed on the grey button. Crack! The wall on the opposite side of the stone room opened, and there was a tunnel leading downwards. Without thinking too much, Yi Chen walked down the tunnel. Soon, Yi Chen walked out of the tunnel and looked up. Thousands of miles away was a huge plaza, no different from the one he came from. What made him frown was that around the plaza, there were thousands of stone statues. They were no longer cute like rabbits and pigs, but fierce beasts like tigers, wolves, and lions. If there were no surprises, the battling power of these fierce beasts would be much more powerful than the cute ones. Yi Chen. The Snow Air Emperor walked out from another tunnel and flashed once, appearing in front of Yi Chen. We should be in the second safe zone, Yi Chen said thoughtfully. The Snow Air Emperor nodded. Clearly, in the miracle, the plaza was a safe zone. There was one before, and now there was another. There would definitely be a third one. However, the further they went, the more powerful they would be. These fierce beast statues were not to be trifled with. Snow Air Emperor, Yi Chen. The other 3 purple gold commanders also came out and met up with Yi Chen. Thousands of meters away were the Demon Fist Emperor and the Dark Goddess. They're coming. Let's get to the plaza first. The Snow Air Emperor squinted. The fierce beast statues had already discovered them and were flying over. Let's go. In a flash, the Snow Air Emperor went to meet the fierce beast statues. At the very front was a cheetah sculpture. The cheetah sculpture's speed was extremely fast, leaving the beasts behind it more than 10 miles away. It leapt into the air, and its sharp right claw was mixed with destructive cold light as it attacked Emperor Shui Kong. The cheetah statue was fast, but the Snow Air Emperor was even faster. Her figure swayed slightly and avoided the claw. Her left hand instantly slapped the statue's chest. Bang! The cheetah statue turned into an ice sculpture and fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. With the Snow Air Emperor as the spearhead, Yi Chen and the other 3 were not surrounded by the many fierce beast statues. However, it was difficult for them to advance. The strength of these fierce beast statues was close to the purple gold commander level. 1-on-1, any one of the 5 could easily win. 1-on-2 was not a big problem, but 3-5 was the limit of the Tyrant Sword King and the other 2. 10 was Yi Chen's limit, and there were more than 10, 20, or even thousands of fierce beast statues. Dang dang dang, Yi Chen pushed his sword arts to the limit, blocking the attacks of the fierce beast statues one after another. Occasionally, there would be a fish that slipped through the net, but he could only take it head-on. Fortunately, Yi Chen was wearing a full set of silver armor, which gave him an astonishing defense. These fierce beast statues could not break through his defense for a while. Of course, defending for a long time was bound to fail. As time went on, even Yi Chen had no confidence in escaping unscathed. Frozen Century. In front, Empress Shuekong let out a delicate shout and pushed out 2 ice walls with both hands, isolating the ferocious beast sculptures outside. Let's go. The Snow Air Emperor said quickly. Yi Chen and the other 3 did not dare to be negligent. They followed closely behind the Snow Air Emperor, pushing their speed to the limit. They were very clear that if they were surrounded by the fierce beast statues, only death would await them. Only an 8th-layer life and death expert would dare to ignore so many fierce beast statues. Catcher. After a few steps, the ice walls were destroyed. Left with no other choice, the Snow Air Emperor continued to create ice walls while Yi Chen continuously waved his true burning sword. Although the sword's attack power was not as high as the sun refinement, its powerful momentum allowed it to play a huge role. From time to time, the fierce beast statues would burst into flames, hindering the fierce beast statues behind them. After half a cup of tea's time, the 5 finally arrived at the plaza. So close. The Ghost Claw Lion King wiped off its sweat. Now, let's just wait to be transported out. Tyrant Sword King did not intend to continue exploring the miraculous site. In any case, he had gained a lot in the stone room. The Snow Air Emperor and Yi Chen also did not intend to continue exploring the miraculous site. Not to mention the fact that they had already gained a lot, whether they could leave the plaza alive or not was still a problem. Among the 5, none of them asked each other what they had gained. They all preferred to keep their wealth to themselves. The Demonic Fist Emperor and the rest arrived at the plaza a bit later than them. However, they lost a Dark Commander along the way. Out of tacit understanding, neither side attacked the other, as if there was no need to risk their lives. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Buzz buzz. The space rippled, and the 9 of them instantly disappeared from the plaza. When they reappeared, they were at the entrance of the temple cluster. The entire temple cluster was flying toward the black hole, becoming smaller and smaller. After a few breaths, the temple cluster completely disappeared, and the black hole shrunk to a point before disappearing with a pop. Unfortunately, I'm not strong enough. I don't know when I'll be able to see the miraculous sight again. The Thousand Arrow King and the rest did not gain anything, and their faces were filled with regret. There's always a chance. Yi Chen was definitely the biggest winner of this trip to the miraculous site. The Temple Stone Tablet had allowed him to gain 3 peak third transformation sword techniques and a secret soul attack technique, Soul Sword Chi. The value of the primary stone pool was immeasurable. Yi Chen would not even sell 1 trillion primary stones, because the primary stone pool could produce 100 million primary stones every year. After 10,000 years, its value would exceed 1 trillion primary stones. With an almost endless supply of primary stones, Yi Chen would buy a large Overlord-level warship. Next year, he planned to return to Elysium and bring everyone out. Chapter 1125. Name, Yi Chen. Rank, Major Commander. Killed 2,430 enemies, 1 commander, 6 major commanders, 18 minor commanders, 66 centurions, 420 high-grade soldiers, 735 middle-grade soldiers, and 1,184 low-grade soldiers. Killed 2 commanders, 11 major generals, 29 minor generals, 109 centurions, 710 high-ranking soldiers, 1,200 middle-ranking soldiers, and 1,919 low-ranking soldiers. You may be promoted to commander. Military contribution points, 2,083 million. Individual contribution points, 5 stars. Average contribution points, 5 stars. Yi Chen's battle record could be said to be perfect, but the entire team's battle record was somewhat terrible. The team had 50,000 people, but they had lost 26,885 people, and killed 31,200 enemies. If the team had a small number of people, they could allow the number of enemies killed to be less than the number of losses. However, if the team had a large number of people, it was not allowed, not to mention 50,000 people. Under normal circumstances, for a team of 50,000 people, losing more than 5,000 people was considered a lot. Controlling the losses to be below 3,000 was considered excellent. Of course, if they encountered an enemy team of 50,000 people, it would be an exception. In such circumstances, losing 20 to 30,000 people was normal. No matter what, the Snow Air Emperor was the commander of this team. Losing so many soldiers, she would inevitably have to bear some responsibility. As for what responsibility, Yi Chen did not know. The commander badge was purple, noble and domineering. Right now, Yi Chen had 3 badges, one for a low-grade soldier, one for a major commander, and one for a commander, all of which belonged to him. Golden Armor Planet's Master City, Golden Armor City. I'm sorry, but you need to become a purple gold commander or general to be able to purchase an Emperor-grade battleship. A middle-aged king wearing a major commander badge on his right chest said with regret. Below Emperor-grade battleship, one could purchase it as long as one had enough source stones. However, Emperor-grade battleships were controlled products, and source stones were not enough. One's military rank also needed to be high enough. Strictly speaking, only generals had the qualifications to purchase them. Purple gold commanders were an exception. After all, there were only about 50 purple gold commanders in the entire human race. How can I become a purple gold commander? Yi Chen asked. You only need to leave a mark on the Emperor Scar Stele to become a purple gold commander. Emperor Scar Stele? Yi Chen was not unfamiliar with this thing. Elysium had an Emperor Scar Stele, but Elysium's Emperor Scar Stele was far inferior to the real Emperor Scar Stele. Before leaving Elysium, Yi Chen was able to leave a mark on it. Under the guidance of several staff members, Yi Chen arrived at the Emperor Scar Stele testing area. You have 3 chances. As long as you can leave a mark on the Emperor Scar Stele once, you can become a noble purple gold commander. Your treatment won't be any weaker than that of a general. In terms of prestige, a purple gold commander wouldn't be inferior to a general. Another female lieutenant said, purple gold commanders are divided into 5 stars. The lowest is a 1-star purple gold commander, followed by 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, and the highest is a 5-star purple gold commander. Although no matter what commander you are, your military rank is the same, and you can't tell from your appearance, there is still a big difference in treatment. For example, a 1-star purple gold commander can only buy the lowest quality Emperor-grade warship, and it will be a small one. A 2-star purple gold commander can buy a slightly better quality small and medium Emperor-grade warship. As for a 3-star purple gold commander, there is no restriction. As long as you have enough source stones, you can buy any Emperor-grade warship. Yi Chen nodded. The other party had said so much because the higher the status, the better the treatment. In terms of military rank, an ordinary commander would be the same as a purple gold commander. A 1-star purple gold commander would also be the same as a 5-star purple gold commander. However, the treatment would be different. If one wanted to obtain better treatment, they would have to fight for these unseen honors. Start the test. We will judge your purple gold commander rank according to the depth of the mark. There were 3 major lieutenants and 5 minor lieutenants watching from the side. Nodding his head, Yi Chen looked at the 3 meters tall Emperor Scar Stele. Without using the 3 flowers borrowing Dao, Yi Chen pulled out the Dragon Spring Sword and slashed at the Emperor Scar Stele with the True Inferno Sword. Puff! Bang! 2 sounds came from the Emperor Scar Stele. One was the clear impact, and the other was the back impact. What a strong back impact! One of the lieutenants looked at the mark. The mark was scorched black, and it was 2.9 inches deep. 2-star. 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 Everyone reported their data. Do we still want to continue the test? Yi Chen's current data was 2 stars. In other words, Yi Chen was already a 2-star purple gold commander. He was only missing a purple gold commander badge. Let's try again. This time, Yi Chen used the 3 flowers borrowing Dao. The powerful essence, chi, and soul doubled his battle power. The Emperor Scar Steely didn't have any restrictions. Battle secret techniques were also a part of one's strength. In comparison, the selfless Emperor realm increased one's battle power even more. In this aspect, Yi Chen was at a disadvantage. Raising the dragon spring sword high, Yi Chen slashed at the Emperor Scar Steely. Puff! An intense sword chi slashed at the Emperor Scar Steely. That trace of black made one's heart palpitate. The mark is 3.5 inches deep, 3 stars. 3 stars. 3 stars. Congratulations! Among the 50 purple gold rank commanders, there are only 5 3-star purple gold rank commanders, including you. Yi Chen's strength made them understand that this person's future would be glorious. After all, he had such strength even before reaching Life and Death Realm. Once he reached Life and Death Realm, he would be invincible within the same realm. No, he would be able to surpass realms to battle. The purple gold commander badge was purple gold in color and had a star pattern on it. 1 star represented a 1-star purple gold commander, and 3 stars represented a 3-star purple gold commander. The place where the army bought warships. May I ask what kind of Emperor-grade warship you need? A large one. Yi Chen said. The most ordinary large Emperor-grade warship is worth 300 million yuan stones. Since you're a 3 stars purple gold commander, you can pay half first. The remaining half can be paid in installments. If you pay in 100 years, you'll need to pay 2 million per year. If you pay in 500 years, you'll need to pay 700,000 per year. If you pay in 1,000 years, you'll need to pay 500,000 per year. Paying in installments was very disadvantageous for the buyer. If you pay in 100 years, half of it would be 150 million, and the remaining 100 years would be 250 million, a total of 350 million, an extra 50 million. If you pay in 500 years, 150 million plus 350 million would be 550 million, an extra 250 million. If you pay in 1,000 years, 150 million plus 550 million would be 650 million, an extra 350 million. Of course, the army also had to bear a huge risk. After all, if you died, these yuan stones would be wasted. But seriously speaking, there were very few people who could afford an Emperor-grade warship. Even the most ordinary small Emperor-grade warship would cost 30 million yuan stones. How could an ordinary person have so much wealth? Even an ordinary general might not have it, not to mention a large Emperor-grade warship with 300 million and above. There were not many people who could afford it. If not for the unexpected yuan stone pond, Yi Chen would have to struggle for decades or even centuries to obtain such wealth. Don't worry about it. I'll pay in one go, but I want the best large Emperor-grade warship. If he wanted to buy, he would buy the best. Chapter 1126. One-time payment. The best large Emperor-grade battleship. The other party was inwardly shocked at Yi Chen's wealth. In fact, the fact that Yi Chen could pay 150 million yuan stones was already shocking enough. It should be known that even the future successor of a first-grade or second-grade faction wouldn't have several hundred million yuan stones, unless they were an 8th-layer life and death expert. However, Yi Chen was only a 3-star purple gold commander. There aren't many peak large Emperor-grade battleships. Their price is between 500 million and 600 million yuan stones. There was no such thing as the best. Peak Emperor-grade battleships had their own advantages. The more expensive one was not necessarily the best. Perhaps, one wouldn't like this advantage. Take me to see it, Yi Chen said. All right. The other party nodded and led Yi Chen into the interior of the building. The interior of the building was extremely spacious, exceeding 20 li in length and width. Hundreds of Emperor-grade battleships were parked here. The outer perimeter was filled with small battleships, the middle was filled with medium battleships, and the core was filled with large battleships, numbering only 30 in total. The Golden Armored Star has a total of 33 large Emperor-grade warships, and 4 of them are the best of the best. This one is called the Golden Cutlass, and its material is equivalent to a high-grade defensive artifact. It is indestructible and can easily penetrate through a non-life planet with a diameter of several 100,000 li. Its defensive barrier can withstand the continuous attacks of a mid-grade combat emperor, and is worth 500 million yuan stones. The rotten wood warship is slightly inferior to the golden cutlass, but its defensive barrier is very strong and can withstand the continuous attacks of a high-grade combat emperor, and is worth 520 million yuan stones. The shadowless warship has a weaker defensive barrier, but it can conceal itself and is hard to detect with just one soul power, and is worth 550 million yuan stones. The Dijang-class warship is not inferior to the Golden Cutlass, and its defensive barrier is better than the Rottenwood warship. The other party introduced the 4-peak Emperor-grade battleships one by one. Can I buy 2 of them? Yi Chen took a fancy to the Dijang battleship, but he also felt that the shadowless battleship was very interesting. Sorry, I can't do that. Purchasing an Emperor-grade battleship will be recorded. Each person can only buy 1 large Emperor-grade battleship. So it's like that. In that case, pick a peak small Emperor-grade battleship for me. Usually, when there were few people or traveling alone, it was more convenient to use a small Emperor-grade battleship. In any case, small Emperor-grade battleships weren't worth that many yuan stones. All right. The other party nodded and led the way. He was no longer surprised. Yi Chen had already spent 600 million source stones. Why would he care about a few million source stones? In his opinion, Yi Chen should have found a treasure trove in the starry skies. He had so much wealth that he had nowhere to go. Seeing how Yi Chen could easily spend 600 to 700 million source stones, Yi Chen's wealth should have exceeded 1 billion. The small emperor-ranked battleship that Yi Chen had chosen was called Phantom Shadow, and it was worth 70 million primal stones. Its defensive barrier could withstand continuous attacks from high-level combat emperors. Other than being 100 times smaller, it was not much worse than Dijianghao. The treatment of a 3-star purple gold commander wasn't just about being able to purchase an Emperor-class battleship. The greatest treatment was that one could fulfill the requirements of a city lord. In fact, a 1-star purple gold commander could fulfill the requirements. In other words, Yi Chen, who had become a 3-star purple gold commander, could become a city lord on one of the 4 major lifestar domains. A city lord was not only an honor, but also a symbol of wealth. The annual tax revenue of a city was quite astonishing. As long as one became a city lord, one could obtain a large amount of source stones without doing anything. Apart from this, the city lord position could also be inherited. After the death of the first city lord, his descendant or a designated person would inherit the position. Within 10,000 years, no one would have the right to take back the city. However, after 10,000 years, if no one could become a purple gold commander or reach the 7th layer of life and death realm, the city would be confiscated. For example, the current city lord of Blue Leaf City was the Blue Leaf clan's patriarch, and this city lord position was inherited by him. It had been several thousand years, and there were still 5,000 to 6,000 years before the deadline. During this time, as long as Lan Xian'er could reach the 7th layer of life and death realm, she could inherit the city lord position and become the city lord of Blue Leaf City. A Lifestars city had 2 grades, ordinary city and main city. On the other hand, Lifestars had 10 grades, from lowest to highest grade, grade 1 Lifestar, grade 2 Lifestar, and grade 9 Lifestar. Firebird Star was a grade 2 Lifestar. The treatment of a 3-star purple gold commander was that he could choose any main city on a grade 3 Lifestar as his territory. Of course, one could not just casually own a city. To become the city lord of a grade 3 Lifestar's main city, Yi Chen first had to pay 300 million source stones to the upper echelons. He didn't have to pay it all at once, and could pay it in installments. Then, every year, 30% of the tax would go to the upper echelons, and the remaining 70% would go to him. However, this was a huge temptation for anyone. After all, even if one didn't think for oneself, one had to think for one's descendants. With a city, even if one's descendants didn't live up to expectations, they would still be able to enjoy glory for 10,000 years. Yi Chen didn't have much interest in the position of city lord, but he knew the importance of a city. With a city, It would be much easier for the falling dust sword sect to take root in the 4 major life star fields. They could definitely become one of the overlords of this life star field. There are a total of 702 level 3 life-bearing planets in the 4 major life-bearing star fields. There are 7,200 main cities and 1,345 empty city lords. There are 350 in the Azure Dragon starfield, 380 in the White Tiger starfield, 320 in the Vermilion Bird starfield, and 295 in the Black Tortoise starfield. Which starfield do you want to choose? At the City Lord's registration office, a female king with a commander badge on her right chest asked. The Vermilion Bird starfield. Yi Chen thought for a while and replied. Since you are a 3-star purple gold commander, you can choose the best grade 3 life star and the best main city. I have listed 10 of the best main cities for you. You can choose any one of them as your territory. A 3-star purple gold commander was too honorable, even more honorable than a 3-star general. After all, in the entire human race, there were only 5 3-star purple gold commanders, but 3-star generals were far more than that. Yi Chen looked through the list. These 10 main cities were indeed very good. Not only were the grade 3 life stars large, but they also had a high population. Their taxes were also the highest among all the main cities. In the end, Yi Chen chose Fiery Flower City. Fiery Flower City was one of the main cities of the Vermilion Bird starfield's Flame Starfield. Its annual tax revenue was as high as 5 million yuan stones, and the main city's population was 2 billion. Of course, Fiery Flower City wasn't just a city. The surrounding several million li were all part of Fiery Flower City's territory. These several million li radius included many ordinary cities, towns, and small towns. With Fiery Flower City, Yi Chen could appoint his own people as the city lord of the surrounding cities, as well as the town mayor. If the Flame Starfield was a kingdom, then Yi Chen was a warlord. If the Flame Starfield was a continent, then Yi Chen was the emperor of a country, possessing immense power. In short, from now on, Yi Chen could be considered to have his own foundation, no longer a rootless duckweed. Chapter 1127. After paying 300 million yuan stones in one go, Yi Chen obtained a City Lord's command token. This token itself was a Heavenly King grade weapon, and was hard to destroy. It was useless to Yi Chen, but after Yi Chen's death, it would be the only proof for Yi Chen's descendants to inherit the City Lord's position. Losing it would be very troublesome. With the token, Yi Chen officially became the City Lord of Flame City. The upper echelons of the human race would come to collect taxes once every 100 years. Doing it once a year was too troublesome. Flame Star was located in the southeast of Vermilion Bird starfield. It was a red planet with a diameter of 45 million li. There weren't many places suitable for human habitation on Flame Star, occupying less than 20% of the planet's surface area. However, it was rich in metal and fire attribute energy ores. Every day, many puppet battleships would come to transport metal and energy ores. Flame Star had 2 continents suitable for human habitation, the Southern Hemisphere's Fire Cloud continent, and the Northern Hemisphere's Fire Crystal continent. Fire Cloud continent had 4 main cities, while Fire Crystal continent had 5. Yi Chen's Flame City was on Fire Crystal continent. As one of the main cities, Flame Flower City was shrouded in countless arrays and restrictions. These arrays and restrictions were extremely ancient, having existed for more than 10 million years. Every year, the consumption of yuan stones to maintain the arrays was estimated to be in the tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands. Of course, Flame City's annual tax revenue was around 5 million yuan stones. Adding other income, it shouldn't be a problem to raise 7 to 8 million yuan stones. The cost of maintaining the arrays was only a fraction of the total. After all, the arrays could automatically absorb the yuan qi of the heaven and earth. The Flame City Lord Mansion occupied a vast area, like a city within a city. In a luxurious courtyard of the mansion, the acting City Lord, Iron Water King, was in a good mood. He smiled evilly at the beautiful woman in front of him, unable to move. This beautiful woman was also a king, and her cultivation base was not low. She had reached the 5th heavenly layer of life and death realm. Logically speaking, 5th heavenly layer life and death realm experts were already at the level of great experts. However, at this moment, she was unable to move, as if under some kind of restriction. Rose King, you didn't expect to fall into my hands, did you? Iron King looked at the hot body of the Rose King, and his eyes flashed with passion. Of course, the most attractive thing about the Rose King was her temperament, which was more important than her appearance and body. It should be known that on Flame Star, the Rose King was undoubtedly the most beautiful king, and she was also the leader of the Rose family. Iron Water King, you despicable bastard. My Rose family is a big family in the Flame Star. Aren't you afraid that your ugly behavior will be spread out and made the whole world laugh at you? Rose King's face was full of anger. Iron Water King had wanted to make her his woman many years ago, but she had not agreed to it. Unexpectedly, Iron Water King had sent the Scarlet Fire Gang's 4 protectors to capture her. How lawless. This is a world where only the strong are respected. No one will choose to oppose me for your sake. In any case, I'm the substitute city lord of Flame City. Who would dare to do anything to me? As for you, I suspect that you've killed people in Flame Flower City. Now, I'm going to interrogate you. Iron Water King's family had once been glorious. Flame City had been passed down by the old ancestor. However, ever since the death of the old ancestor, a 7th layer life and death king hadn't appeared in the family for 10,000 years. Since there were a lot of empty main cities, and they couldn't lack management, the upper echelons of the human race allowed Iron Water King to become the substitute city lord of Flame Flower City. Only when the real city lord took office would he abdicate. By now, Iron Water King had been the city lord of Flame Flower City for decades. Although Flame Flower City's taxes had nothing to do with the acting city lord, besides taxes, there were countless places to earn primordial stones. The 4 great families, 3 great sects, and 2 great gangs of Flame Flower City would give him a lot of primordial stones every year. Adding his own family's business, it was not an exaggeration to say that his annual income was no less than 3 million primordial stones. In the entire Flame Flower City, Iron Water King's family could be said to cover the sky with one hand. Which of the 9 great powers didn't have to pay attention to his mood? He only needed to tell the Scarlet Fire Gang's leader that he was interested in Rose King, and the gang's leader immediately dispatched 4 protectors to secretly capture Rose King. You're only a substitute city lord. One day, someone will come and replace you. At that time, your family will also turn into ashes. How could Rose King not know that this was a world where only the strong were respected? She had already accepted her fate. However, one day, she would take revenge. Humph. My nephew is currently breaking through to the 7th layer of life and death realm. Once he succeeds, this Flame Flower City will belong to my family once again. As for someone coming to replace me, I'm not afraid. My family has been passed down from my ancestor. He knows a lot of old friends, and the descendants of his old friends are also many experts. If the new city lord is a bit more obedient, he might be able to keep his position. Otherwise, he won't be able to bear the consequences. Iron Water King wasn't worried about his family in the slightest. There were many titled monarchs who were on good terms with his family. Although they weren't on Flame Star, he could still send someone to warn the other party. So this is Flame Flower City. It's flourishing indeed. Walking on the incomparably spacious street and watching the stream of people coming and going, even with his tranquil state of mind, he couldn't help but feel a ripple in his heart. From today onwards, Sparkle City's 2 billion population, as well as the tens of billions in Inferno Flower City's territory, were all under his control. He was the king here, and the rules were up to him. With Falling Dust Sword sect taking root here, he wouldn't have to worry about its future development. Of course, Yi Chen would set up a sect rule to prevent people of other sects from causing a ruckus here. In the end, this is a world where the weak are prey to the strong. Yi Chen sighed with emotion. If he weren't a 3-star purple gold commander, he wouldn't have been valued by the upper echelons of human race, and he wouldn't have the power to decide the life and death of several billion people. I've arrived at the City Lord's mansion. Yi Chen arrived at the entrance of the mansion and stopped. This is the City Lord's mansion. Why haven't you left yet? The guards of the mansion ignored the fact that Yi Chen was a fifth-layer life and death expert and furiously shouted. Yi Chen sneered and took out the City Lord's command token. I'm Flame City's City Lord, starting today. Flame City's City Lord? The guards were a bit confused. Didn't Flame City already have a City Lord? How could they know that Iron Water King was only a substitute City Lord? Wait here, I'll go in and inform them. Iron Water King and his family's prestige was too deep, so the guards still didn't dare to let Yi Chen in. No need to go through so much trouble. Yi Chen waved his hand, and 2 rows of guards fell to the ground. Yi Chen walked straight in. Who dares to cause trouble in the City Lord's mansion? Do you want to die? The City Lord's mansion was huge. Yi Chen had only walked a few thousand meters when he was surrounded by a group of Iron Water King family's experts. The whole mansion was the Iron Water King family's lair. Yi Chen looked around and took out the City Lord's command token. City Lord's command token. The Iron Water King family's people all knew that Iron Water King was the substitute City Lord, not the real City Lord. So it's the new City Lord. My apologies, I was disrespectful just now. A person who seemed to be in charge of the Iron Water King family walked over with a smile and cupped his fists. Yi Chen said indifferently, "Where's the substitute City Lord?" "The substitute City Lord is busy. Why don't you come back in a few months? You shouldn't be in a hurry, right?" the person said with a smile. Chapter 11:28. Yi Chen raised his eyebrows. These people had been abusing themselves for so long that they couldn't even tell who was the master and who was the commoner. He didn't bother to be polite and said coldly, "Unrelated people, get out of the City Lord's mansion. Anyone who disobeys will be killed on the spot. Don't make life difficult for yourself." He had already found the substitute City Lord's location. He was indeed working. This isn't appropriate. The man's brows creased, and his face turned gloomy. Peng. Yi Chen clenched his left hand into a fist and punched the opponent's body. The powerful fist energy superimposed twice double stacks. Spurting out blood, this man was also a fifth-layer life and death realm existence. However, in front of Yi Chen, he wasn't even as good as a chick. His vision blurred, and the next moment, his chest felt like it had been struck by lightning. His body involuntarily flew out of the mansion and landed heavily on the street. "One more word, and all of you leave. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." Yi Chen's eyes swept over the rest. He wasn't joking with these people. If they really didn't listen to his orders, then there was no harm in killing them. Go. Seeing Yi Chen attack without the slightest frown, these people knew that he was not a pushover. If they continued to defy him, they would most likely be killed. Swish. His figure flickered, and Yi Chen instantly arrived at Iron Water King's luxurious courtyard. "Who's there?" Sensing someone's arrival, Iron Water King promptly turned around. "You're the substitute City Lord?" Yi Chen asked. Letting go of Rose King, Iron Water King tidied up his clothes and slowly turned around. Squinting his eyes, he said, "Who are you? What business do you have with me?" Taking out the City Lord's token, Yi Chen said, "You don't need me to say much, right?" Iron Water King's face turned extremely ugly. There were so many empty cities, so why did the other party choose Fiery Flower City? Moreover, he had taken up the position so quickly. Once he lost the status of substitute City Lord, he would no longer be able to shake the world like before. Most importantly, his clan's annual income would sharply decline. "Name your price. I can pay you a large sum of primordial stones as long as you give up Sparkle City and choose another main city," the Iron Water King said in a low voice. Yi Chen smiled. "No need. I like it here. Aren't you going to consider it? Source stones are not a problem. Of course, don't take me for a fool." Coupled with the reign of the great ancestor, the Taishui King family had been in Inferno Flower City for 70 to 80,000 years. The wealth accumulated over the past 70 to 80,000 years was amazing. Not tens of billions, but billions. Of course, his bottom line was 500 million. Anything more than that was out of the question. "I don't lack primal stones, so there's no need to think about it." "Alright, You can leave the City Lord's mansion now. Remember, bring all of your people out. I don't keep any random people here, Yi Chen said without hesitation. A trace of anger flashed in the Iron Water King's eyes, but a smile appeared on his face. Hehe, I was just joking. It is my honor and my family's honor that you chose Fiery Flower City. However, you are new here, so it must be very difficult for you to manage such a big city. If you don't mind, I can help you. In his opinion, Yi Chen should not have time to manage a city. With him, the family would not suffer any loss, and he could still shake the world. It was like killing two birds with one stone. In the end, he could save a large sum of primordial stones. Don't listen to him. His family has colluded with the 9 forces and made a lot of exorbitant taxes to divide the benefits of the people of Fiery Flower City. The people here are angry but dare not say anything. Many small families have even decided to move out of Fiery Flower City. The Rose King looked very embarrassed. His shirt was torn in half, exposing a white towering breast with a bright red tip. Shut up! The Iron Water King shouted. You can leave now. Yi Chen did not intend to keep the Iron Water King. If a new regime was to be born, the old regime must be destroyed, just like the change of dynasties in ancient times. Therefore, keeping the Iron Water King and his family was equivalent to blinding his eyes, so that he could not see what was happening in Fiery Flower City. Okay, I will leave. The Iron Water King looked calm. He reached out to grab the Rose King and take her out of the City Lord residence. It is you who will leave, not her. She is mine. The Iron Water King suppressed his anger. Everything in the City Lord residence is mine. You are already in the past. Don't go too far. The Iron Water King's eyes turned red. It seems that you really think you are something. The sword light flashed, and the Iron Water King's head flew high. The powerful destruction sword intent combined with the strands of sword chi destroyed the Iron Water King's vitality and the soul imprint in his flesh. His face was full of disbelief. After all, he was the acting City Lord, and the opponent had killed him directly. He thought that his foundation was powerful enough and should be taken seriously. However, he had forgotten one thing. This world was a world where the strong ruled, and the weak were prey to the strong. In Flame Flower City, Yi Chen was a powerful warrior, and he was merely a weakling. Perhaps, he was very powerful in front of others. I am not willing. The Iron Water King's voice stopped. You killed him? The Rose King looked at Yi Chen with a bit of fear. I have killed a lot of people. He is just one of them. Yi Chen did not put the Iron Water King in his eyes. If he killed him, then so be it. He could only blame the other for not knowing when to stop. His eyes scanned the Rose King's body. Soon, Yi Chen found a Zhen Yuan lock on the Rose King's body. It was this lock that had locked the Rose King's Zhen Yuan. Puff! With a point of his finger, the Zhen Yuan lock was broken. The Rose King stood up and hurriedly put on a new set of clothes to cover his half-naked body. Thank you. Taking a deep breath, the Rose King thanked him. You are from this planet? Yi Chen asked. The Rose King said, yes, my family is in Fiery Flame City. It can be considered the #1 family here. Fiery Flame City seems to be under my jurisdiction. The Flame Flower City, as well as the 5 million miles around it, were all under his jurisdiction. The Starfire City was one of the 21 normal cities in the Flame Flower City. There were 2 continents and 9 main cities in the whole Flame Flower City, with each main city managing 10 to 20 normal cities. Of course, some of the normal cities were independent cities that were not under the control of any main city. Those were the cities that were built later. Most of the 1-star and 2-star generals did not have the same treatment as the purple gold rank commanders, so they could only choose the independent normal cities as their own territories. The 3-star purple gold rank commanders had the same treatment as the 5-star generals. My name is Juzime. I wonder what the City Lord's name is. The Rose King felt that the opportunity was right in front of her. She planned to build a good relationship with Yi Chen no matter what to prepare for the future of her family. Yi Chen. Yi Chen did not wait for the other to speak. My family will move to Fiery Flame City after a while. If you don't mind, you can help me manage Fiery Flame City. I don't mind. It would be my honor. The Rose King was very excited. Chapter 1129. City Lord. Zhao family has deep roots in the city. They have hundreds of life and death kings, and Iron Water King's nephew is already a commander. Rumor has it that he's breaking through to the 7th layer. Moreover, Zhao family has a close relationship with many powerful families of other planets. A few years ago, several titled monarchs visited Zhao family as guests. Their relationship seems to be not ordinary. You killing Iron Water King will bring you a lot of trouble. Iron Water King was surnamed Zhao, and he was the patriarch of Zhao family. Rose King felt the need to warn Yi Chen, lest he become too passive. Trouble? Yi Chen shook his head indifferently. Without reaching his realm, one simply couldn't understand the gap between a 3-star purple gold commander and an ordinary king. Take Iron Water King as an example. Yi Chen was at the 5th layer while his opponent was at the 6th layer. However, Yi Chen's battle strength was at least 1,000 times higher than his. His opponent's martial skills were probably hovering between the 1st and 2nd layer, while Yi Chen already had 3 peak 3rd layer sword arts. If Yi Chen wanted to kill, he could completely annihilate the entire Zhao family in a short period of time. It was only a matter of whether he wanted to or not. As for titled monarchs, they were indeed not a small threat. However, for Yi Chen, they were merely a threat. He didn't believe that Zhao family could invite an 8th layer life and death monarch. If they could invite such a monarch, they could completely protect Sparkle City, and the current situation wouldn't have happened. Not every 7th layer life and death monarch had the strength of Snow Air Emperor. The majority of them were ordinary monarchs, equivalent to low-level or mid-level battle emperors. It was true that the Rose King did not know how strong a 3-star purple gold rank commander was. The difference between them was too big, so big that it could not be accurately estimated. It was just like how a newborn baby would not know how strong an adult was. In their eyes, all adults were very strong. Seeing that Yi Chen didn't seem to care, Rose King felt somewhat relieved. Since he didn't care, he must have something to rely on. City Lord, you've just arrived, so the city guards and Sparkle Army certainly don't know you. I feel that we should gather the middle and high-level officers of the 2 armies in a short period of time. The Rose King suggested. Yi Chen nodded. There were 2 large armies in Sparkle City. One was the City Guard, and the other was the Sparkle Army. The City Guards were responsible for patrolling the main city, maintaining the order and prosperity of the main city. There were 1 million of them, consisting of Life and Death Realm Warriors, Sea of Souls Realm Warriors, and Astral Reaching Realm Warriors. Astral Reaching Realm Warriors were the most common soldiers, while Sea of Souls Realm Warriors were the lowest level military officers, such as team leaders, squad leaders, and team leaders. Life and Death Realm Warriors were the middle and high level military officers, such as team leaders, captains, and commanders. The Spark Army was responsible for patrolling the entire Flame Flower City. There were more than 10 million of them, and they were also composed of Life and Death Realm Warriors, Sea of Souls Realm Warriors, and Astral Reaching Realm Warriors. The City Guard branch captains were in charge of 20 soldiers, the squad captains were in charge of 100 soldiers, the platoon captains were in charge of 500 soldiers, the senior captains were in charge of 2,000 soldiers, the branch captains were in charge of 10,000 soldiers, the colonels were in charge of 50,000 soldiers, and the major captains were in charge of the entire city guard. The Sparkle Army had 10 commanders, one of whom was the overall commander. Each commander was in charge of a region. Of course, the city guards weren't limited to the main city guards. There were also city guards from ordinary cities within the borders. However, there was no need to summon these city guards for the time being. In a large manor on the west side of Flame Flower City, the upper echelons of the Zhao family were sitting in the meeting hall. An old man sat in the main seat. Everyone, I think you already know the reason for summoning you here. Right now, what we need to consider is how to stabilize the Zhao family's position. The old man was the previous patriarch of the Zhao family, Iron Leg King, and Iron Water King was his grandson. Old patriarch, this new city master might not necessarily want to attack our Zhao family, right? Aren't we worrying a bit groundless? The one speaking was Iron Leg King's great-grandson, Zhao Fu. In the cosmos, apart from the first 3 generations, there was no such thing as intimacy. After all, life and death kings could live for 100,000 years. Even if it was 1 generation per 1,000 years, there should be 100 generations. In terms of seniority, they could be considered dead, but there was no need. Zhao Fu directly addressed Iron Leg King as Old Patriarch, and not Great Ancestor. Patriarch has been killed. Do you think this new city master won't attack our Zhao family? The middle-aged man beside Zhao Fu coldly snorted. Zhao Fu shook his head. Patriarch has been acting city master for dozens of years. He can't let go of his identity. As far as I'm concerned, he brought this upon himself. To be able to assume the position of city master of a 3rd-grade life planet is not something our Zhao family can contend with. If we can't keep our identity straight, the new city master will naturally be dissatisfied. Therefore, I think Zhao family has to endure. We can't let the new city master think that our Zhao family is a scourge. Otherwise, our Zhao family will truly be finished. Iron Leg King nodded. Zhao Fu was right. The city master of a main city was indeed not something their Zhao family could contend with. Although their Zhao family had a good relationship with many powerful families, and some of these families had titled monarchs, interfering with Flame Flower City with external forces was a bad idea. The new city master was not a soft persimmon. To be able to become the city master of a main city, one had to rely on strength. Zhao Fu is right. It is not wise to go against the new city master. Zhao Meng didn't keep his identity straight, so he deserved to die. The old patriarch had many grandsons. Iron Water King Zhao Meng was only one of them. He would not be too sad. Even if he was sad, he had to look at the big picture and not risk his family's future. But our Zhao family has been in Flame Flower City for 70 to 80,000 years. Our roots are very deep. The arrival of the new city master will definitely affect our Zhao family's foundation. There is no doubt about this. How to protect our Zhao family's benefits, or even a large part of our benefits, is our biggest problem right now. Flame Flower City was equivalent to the Zhao family's base. Only here could the Zhao family earn 3 million yuan stones a year. If they moved to another planet, they might not even earn 100,000 yuan stones a year. As long as they could stay in Flame Flower City, even if their annual income was reduced by 1 or 2 times, the old patriarch would be very satisfied. He was only afraid that the new city master would deprive them of their future benefits. Zhao Fu thought for a while and said, "Old patriarch, I think we shouldn't be too idealistic. The arrival of the new city master will definitely break the current situation. In other words, it is impossible for our Zhao family to maintain our current position. After so many years, our Zhao family has accumulated a lot of wealth. Why don't we slowly develop on other planets and look for opportunities? Wait until Uncle Yang reaches the 7th sky of life and death realm and becomes a 1-star general. At that time, our Zhao family will be able to make a comeback on a rank 1 life planet. A 1-star general could obtain a main city on a rank 1 life planet as their territory. No need to go through so much trouble. Flame Flower City will still belong to our Zhao family." Right at this moment, a young man walked into the meeting hall. "Young you've reached the 7th sky of life and death realm?" The old patriarch's eyes shone brightly. He was at the peak of the 6th sky of life and death realm, but as soon as the young man walked in, he felt a frightening pressure. Indeed. Zhao Yang nodded. He was indeed the nephew Iron Water King had mentioned. Chapter 1130. Great, our Zhao family finally has a second titled monarch. The old patriarch, the Iron Leg King, laughed heartily with an excited expression. The other members of the Zhao family were also very excited. Their previous depression had been swept away. One had to know that although there were many titled monarchs in the universe, there weren't many of them. If a family could have a titled monarch, then that family would truly be considered a high-class family and would be famous for 100,000 years. On the other hand, it would only be a large local family. What a pity. The Iron Leg King said regretfully, if only it had been a little earlier. If Zhao Yang had become a titled monarch earlier, the Zhao family would have continued to inherit Sparkle City. That's right. It's very difficult to obtain Sparkle City now. Zhao Fu knew how high the status of the new city lord was. In the human army, only 3-star purple gold commanders or 5-star generals had the right to own a rank 3 life planet's main city. In other words, Yi Chen was either a 3-star purple gold commander or a 5-star general. However, generals had to be titled monarchs. Since Yi Chen wasn't a monarch, he was naturally a 3-star purple gold commander. You can only gain by giving up. We can offer 1 billion yuan stones and let him choose a new main city. Zhao Yang said. 1 billion yuan stones is too much. Even if we obtain Sparkle City, it will take us many years to earn 1 billion yuan stones. That's right, too much. I think 500 million is enough. We just need to let him choose a new main city. The discussion in the conference hall became louder. Most of them objected. Hearing the discussions, Zhao Yang sneered, if you can't even give up 1 billion yuan stones, how can you even talk about owning Sparkle City? I'm over 3,000 years old this year. After inheriting the position of Sparkle City Lord, I'll have been here for nearly 100,000 years. Everyone should know how much wealth I can accumulate in 100,000 years. In theory, occupying a rank 3 life planet's main city could accumulate several 100 billion yuan stones in 100,000 years. Of course, this was only in theory. For example, an ordinary person could earn a lot in their lifetime, but their savings were pitifully small. The distribution of the clan's wealth, nurturing the younger generation, purchasing all sorts of secret arts, dealing with unexpected situations, issuing exploration missions, befriending sovereigns, all of these required essence stones. For a clan with a level 3 life planet's main city, it was already very exaggerated for it to accumulate 100 billion essence stones over 100,000 years. Normally, it would only be several tens of billions. The stronger one was, the more essence stones they would need. The old ancestor of the Zhao family offended too many people. After he died, his enemies all wanted to take revenge on the Zhao family. The Zhao family had to spend half of the family's wealth to settle these matters. Therefore, the Zhao family's wealth was a little less, but it was still around 10 billion. 1 billion wasn't a small amount. What if 1 billion is not enough? Zhao Fu frowned. 5 billion then. Zhao Yang's bottom line was no more than 2 billion. Everyone had their own bottom line. His bottom line was 4 times that of Ironwater King. No, what I mean is that the other party might not care about the benefits in front of them. You have to know that most of the empty main cities don't seem to have city lords, but they are all occupied by large clans. If every clan wants to use essence stones to make the other party compromise, then it will be very difficult for the other party to choose a satisfactory main city. Moreover, the upper echelons of the human race will not allow them to go back on their word again and again. Zhao Fu could see this more clearly than anyone else. Zhao Yang was silent for a moment, then he raised his head and said, "Anyway, Spark City must belong to our Zhao family." Spark City Lord Residence. The high-ranking officers of the City Guard Army arrived first. Following them, the high-ranking officers of the Spark Army also arrived in groups of 2s and 3s. At this moment, the City Lord Residence's meeting hall was overcrowded. Fortunately, this hall was large enough that nearly 1,000 people could sit inside without feeling cramped. With the new City Lord taking office, the Zhao family will probably be purged. The one who spoke was the commander of the 7th Army of the Spark Army. The 9th Army commander nodded slowly. Among the high-ranking officers of the City Guard Army and the Spark Army, the Zhao family occupies 20 to 30%. The new City Lord will not allow the Zhao family to monopolize the city. The Spark Army had a total of 10 commanders. However, apart from the 7th and 9th Armies, the other 8 commanders were all life and death kings of the Zhao family or close to the Zhao family. The fact that the 2 of them could become commanders was actually the Zhao family's superficial effort. As for the City Guard Army, it was naturally under the Zhao family's control. I hope this purge won't be too big. The 9th Army commander continued. He cherished the position of commander very much. The City Guard Army and the Spark Army had a salary. Ordinary soldiers received upper-grade spirit stones, basic officers received supreme-grade spirit stones, and middle and high-ranking officers received yuan stones. The annual salary of the Spark Army's branch officer was 300 yuan stones, the captain 1,000 yuan stones, the captain 3,000 yuan stones, and the commander 10,000 yuan stones. It did not seem like a lot, but there was basically no danger to their lives. They didn't need to explore or join the human army. As life and death kings, their lifespans were extremely long. After 10,000 years, the commander's position would definitely allow them to accumulate a net worth of tens of millions. Not to mention, at their position, the additional income was not small, and they could often make a small fortune. Once they lost this position, they could only wander around like other life and death kings or join the human army. Perhaps they could make a fortune for a while, but the risk was too high, and they could easily lose their lives. Of course, to become a commander, one had to first reach the 6th layer of life and death realm. Footsteps echoed as Yi Chen walked in from the side door of the hall. Behind him was Rose King, City Lord. Everybody in the hall stood up. Sweeping his gaze over everybody, Yi Chen waved his hand, indicating for everybody to sit down. Those who didn't come are all relieved of their duties. Yi Chen said to Rose King. Yes. Rose King's current status was that of a vice city lord. Everybody in the hall was startled, inwardly rejoicing that they had arrived quickly. Glancing at Rose King, Yi Chen said, "From now on, Rose King is the vice city lord of Sparkflower City. Seeing her is the same as seeing me. For those who disobey, I advise you to leave right now. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Rest assured, City Lord. We will certainly follow your orders." Everybody was clear that by climbing on the high branch of City Lord, Rose King and her family could be said to have skyrocketed. Who would dare to be disrespectful to Rose King? As for City Lord's means, they didn't doubt it at all. Before coming, they had already received the news that Sparkflower City's former City Lord, Zhao Clan's patriarch, Iron Water King, had been killed on the spot for disrespecting City Lord. They didn't think that their necks were tougher than Iron Water King's. Clearing his throat, the Rose King looked at the crowd and said, "The commander of the 4th Corps of the Spark Army, the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 7th, and 9th captains of the 4th Corps, are all dismissed. The commander of the 6th Corps, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 8th, and 9th captains of the 6th Corps, are all dismissed." Sparkflower Army and City Guard Army had a total of 11 commanders. 4 of them had come, but at this moment, 2 of them had been dismissed. There were also a large number of captains, colonels, and branch captains. The 7th Army's commanders' brows twitched. The 2 dismissed commanders were the upper echelons of Scarlet Fire Gang and Skyfire Gang. Among the 9 factions, these 2 gangs were undoubtedly Zhao Clan's lackeys. Chapter 1131. I can't accept this. We didn't do anything wrong. Why are you dismissing us? The 4th Army's commander was a big man with sideburns. People called him Copper Hammer King. He stood up and glared at Rose King. The 6th Army's commander, Flying Feather King, looked at Yi Chen. "City Lord, did I and Copper Hammer King do anything wrong?" Yi Chen said indifferently, "No." "Then why did you dismiss us? Is it because we're from Scarlet Fire Gang and Flying Fire Gang? Right. City Lord's actions are hard to convince the masses. I hope City Lord can retract his order. From now on, my Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang will wholeheartedly support you." Flying Feather King said loudly. Yi Chen coldly glanced at him. "You mean that if I don't retract my order, Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang won't wholeheartedly support me? That's good too. In that case, there's no need for them to exist. The 9 great powers of Sparkle City are indeed a bit too much. It's time to eliminate 1 or 2. Hearing these words, Flying Feather King's complexion turned incomparably pale. He didn't expect that his words would bring a huge disaster to Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang. He promptly said, "City Lord, I spoke without thinking just now. I hope you can forgive me. Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang will never have second thoughts." At this time, he no longer dared to talk about Yi Chen retracting his order. If the latter wanted to annihilate Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang, it would be as easy as crushing an ant. That's for the best. Go back and tell your gang leader that if you want to survive in Sparkle City, don't do anything out of line. If I catch you, you'll have to bear the consequences. He didn't mind annihilating Flying Fire Gang and Scarlet Fire Gang, but he needed a reason. Otherwise, recklessly annihilating other gangs would put everyone in danger. Yes. Flying Feather King and Copper Hammer King didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Next, Rose King dismissed many more people. These people were all life and death kings close to Zhao family. Originally, they were hidden very deeply, and ordinary people didn't know about them. However, they couldn't hide it from Rose King and her family. In the end, among the 1,300 and 400 high-ranking officers, apart from the 200 life and death kings of the Zhao family, more than 400 were relieved of their duties. It could be said to be a huge layoff. Fortunately, there were a lot of life and death realm warriors on the planet. As long as the news was sent out, there would definitely be thousands of life and death realm warriors fighting for these positions. After all, this was an iron rice bowl. If he missed this opportunity, he wouldn't get another one. City Lord, Zhao Yang of the Zhao family requests an audience. The next day, a guest arrived at the gate of the City Lord's mansion. The person who came in to report was the captain of the guards. Zhao Yang. Who is he? Yi Chen asked. Zhao Yang is the #1 expert of Zhao family. He's more than 3,000 years old this year. It's said that he reached the peak of life and death 6th layer 2,000 years ago, and even defeated a titled monarch. People call him Scorching Sun King. Invite him in. Yi Chen nodded. Soon, Zhao Yang arrived at the meeting hall. Zhao Yang was a tall young man who looked to be in his 30s. He raised his head and looked at Yi Chen, who was sitting at the head of the hall, and said, "I'm the new patriarch of the Zhao family, Zhao Yang. I've come this time to discuss the matter of the Inferno Flower City. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. I've come with sincerity." "All right then, tell me your sincerity." Yi Chen, on the other hand, wanted to hear the other party's sincerity. Zhao Yang's brows twitched. 1 billion. As long as you give up the Inferno Flower City and choose another main city as your territory, my Zhao family can give you 1 billion yuan stones in one go. Moreover, from now on, you'll be a friend of my Zhao family. This won't be a loss for you, but a huge profit instead. I believe that there should be a few third-grade life planets that are not inferior to the Inferno Flower City. 1 billion, indeed a big sum. Yi Chen faintly smiled. 4 ordinary life and death kings, 1 million yuan stones was already enough for them to not have to struggle with their lives on the line. After all, not everyone had high potential. For the majority of life and death kings, no matter how hard they tried, they could only linger around the 2nd or 3rd layer. 10 million yuan stones could support the development of a 4th-grade family. 100 million yuan stones could make a 3rd-grade family flourish. As for 1 billion, many people didn't even dare to think about it. Have you thought it through? Zhao Yang carefully observed Yi Chen's expression, hoping to find some clues. To tell you the truth, I don't lack yuan stones. Yi Chen didn't waver in the slightest. Faintly creasing his brows, Zhao Yang said, "In this world, everything has its value. It's just a matter of how high or low it is. I believe that in your heart, the Inferno Flower City is not priceless. Indeed, the Inferno Flower City is not priceless in my heart, but your Zhao family cannot afford it. 2 billion. Zhao Yang still didn't give up. 10 billion, and the Inferno Flower City belongs to your Zhao family. Yi Chen didn't believe that the Zhao family would be willing to pay 10 billion. If they were truly willing, he would consider it. 10 billion. Even though Zhao Yang had already prepared his heart, he was still startled by Yi Chen's huge appetite. 10 billion was equivalent to the entire wealth of the Zhao family. Not to mention the other members of the family, even he himself wouldn't agree. Who knew how many years it would take for the Zhao family to earn back 10 billion, and what kind of difficulties they would encounter during this period of time? Zhao Yang didn't get angry, but instead smiled. "You really know how to joke. I can't accept 10 billion. It's ridiculous. As far as I'm concerned, The position of Inferno Flower City Lord is worth 10 billion. Inferno Flower Planet was a very special life planet. There were very few places suitable for human habitation, less than 20% of the planet. Although the other places were not suitable for human habitation, they were the most valuable places on the planet. Inexhaustible metal ores, fire-attributed energy stones, and fire-attributed spirit grasses were all treasures. In simpler terms, the value of a capital city of Inferno Flower Planet was not inferior to a capital city of a fifth-grade life planet. Zhao Yang's expression gradually turned gloomy. Sucking in a deep breath, he slowly said, "Since you can obtain Inferno Flower City, it means that you're a 3-star purple gold commander. How about this? If I can win one move against you by luck, can you consider my condition?" As long as he won, Zhao Yang didn't believe that Yi Chen would still have the face to stay in Inferno Flower City. Win one move against me? How could Yi Chen not see that Zhao Yang had already entered the 7th layer of life and death realm? He was no longer the Burning Sun King, but the Burning Sun Emperor. Having just entered the 7th layer, he was certainly full of confidence. There's no need to go through so much trouble. As long as you can block one move of mine without falling into a disadvantageous position, there's no harm in giving you Inferno Flower City. Yi Chen said. All right, it's a deal. A prideful expression flickered in Zhao Yang's eyes. He didn't expect that Yi Chen would be so easily provoked. In fact, he didn't have the slightest bit of confidence in winning against Yi Chen. But now, things were much easier. Not to mention not falling into a disadvantageous position in one move, he could even win 10 moves without falling into a disadvantageous position. Make your move. Zhao Yang's Zhen Yuan erupted. His entire body seemed like a human-shaped sun, emitting boundless radiance. Chapter 1132. Before entering the 7th sky of life and death realm, Zhao Yang was known as the Burning Sun King. He was proficient in the Yang Profound, Fire Profound, and Earth Profound. According to these 3 profounds, he had created 2 extreme rank 2 martial arts, Burning Sun Palm and Lava Exploding Fist. Although they couldn't compare to those geniuses, they were still quite good. The reason why he was so confident was not only because of his realm advantage, but also because he had created a 3rd-rank martial art, Sky-Dominating Sun Fist. Back then, it was precisely this fist that had allowed him to defeat a titled monarch. Take my sun-splitting palm first. Zhao Yang's right hand emitted boundless light and heat as if it was condensed from light. He sucked in a deep breath and threw a palm attack at Yi Chen. As this palm attack was thrown out, the entire hall became dark. It was as if it was not a human's palm, but a real sun as it shot toward Yi Chen. A titled monarch is a titled monarch after all. Anata realm had 3 stages, and titled monarchs had surpassed the 3rd stage by condensing the monarch's mark. Strictly speaking, titled monarchs had already turned the Anata realm into their instinct. When they attacked, they would be at their peak state. Combined with their 7th sky of life and death realm Zhen Yuan, their battle power would reach an extremely frightening level. Not daring to be careless, Yi Chen instantly entered the Anata realm and slashed out with his sword. Puff! The blazing palm energy dissipated, and light specks danced in the air. It's my turn. Block this sword, and the Flame Flower City will be yours. Holding the Dragon Spring sword with one hand, Yi Chen raised it high and stared at Zhao Yang. Come. Zhao Yang's eyes flickered with intense confidence. His right arm started to burn fiercely like a piece of red-hot iron. Drops of lava dripped down with sizzling sounds. The Extreme Sky Tyrannical Sun Fist was different from ordinary martial arts. The unique aspect of this martial art was that once it accumulated power, the entire arm would transform into energy. It could expand and shrink at will. This way, the attack power would be more concentrated, and there would be less wastage. As soon as Zhao Yang finished speaking, Yi Chen's attack came. If Zhao Yang's sun-splitting palm was the sun, then Yi Chen's Sun Essence Extreme could be called a white dwarf. Its power was more restrained, but it was 100 times more terrifying. The dazzling sword Qi almost reached Zhao Yang in a flash. Break! Zhao Yang's right arm swelled up like the fist of a deity, striking towards the radiant sword Qi. Boom! The entire city lord's mansion shook violently. The full power of 2 combat emperors was enough to destroy an ordinary planet with a diameter of a few 100,000 miles. Although the destructive power would be reduced by 1,000 times on a planet with life, it was still not to be underestimated. Under normal circumstances, it would be enough to turn a radius of a few 100 miles into a doomsday scene. Of course, as the heart of Sparkle City, the City Lord's mansion was covered in countless formations and restrictions. After destroying some of the formations, most of the energy was absorbed and converted into energy for the formation to operate. The remaining energy that could not be absorbed was crazily released through the door of the meeting hall, spewing out a dazzling pillar of light. Not good. Zhao Yang's expression changed immediately. This sword attack of Yi Chen's had reached a level of extreme yang, and could destroy anything. Although his sky-piercing tyrannical sun fist was also extremely tyrannical, it paled in comparison to this sword attack. He could not block it at all. Boom! The light exploded in a fan shape, and Zhao Yang spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying into the sky by the light pillar. On his body, a set light appeared. Obviously, Zhao Yang also had a low-level Heavenly King set. They were both low-level Heavenly King set, but Zhao Yang's defense was more than 10 times that of Yi Chen's. After all, their cultivation bases were 2 levels apart. Even if Yi Chen's Jin Yuan was closer to the Sword Yuan level, which was much purer than an ordinary life and death 4th level Jin Yuan, it would still be hard to imagine. On the other hand, if Zhao Yang did not have a low-level Heavenly King set, he would have died under this sword. The destructive power of the Sun Essence Extreme was hard to imagine without experiencing it personally. After tumbling dozens of meters in the sky, Zhao Yang finally stabilized his body. His face was ashen as he stared at Yi Chen below. With a cold snort, he turned around and left. My cultivation base is still a bit too low. Yi Chen realized that he had underestimated Zhao Yang. The latter's 3rd revolution martial skill, sky-piercing tyrannical sun fist, was hundreds of times weaker than his 3rd revolution peak sword skill, Sun Essence Extreme. However, when the two had exchanged blows just now, Yi Chen was only a few times stronger than his opponent. In other words, his opponent's cultivation base was at least 100 times stronger than Yi Chen's. Although the higher one's martial skills progressed, the more frightening their destructive power would be. Every tiny bit of improvement would be 10 times stronger. 3rd revolution martial skills and peak 3rd revolution martial skills would have a difference of 100 times, and 4th revolution martial skills would have a difference of 1,000 times. However, correspondingly, the higher one's cultivation base was, the slower one's progress would be. 3rd revolution peak sword skill was Yi Chen's limit, and it would be a long time before his sword arts would have a big improvement. Therefore, he could only focus on other aspects. The gap of 2 realms was not a small one. It was too big. Of course, 7th life and death realm Jin Yuan was not 100 times stronger than 5th life and death realm Jin Yuan. It was mainly because of the Emperor's mark. Therefore, Yi Chen had to either increase his cultivation base or reach an Atta realm. The former would take too long, but the latter could continue to improve. Time to return to God Paradise. Yi Chen had the intention to leave. As the deputy city lord, Rose King was very competent. In a short week, she had filled in the gap of high-ranking officers of the Flame Flower Army and city guards. Although many of them were from the Rose family, it didn't arouse Yi Chen's disgust. Nepotism was very important in consolidating one's position. She was Yi Chen's trusted aide at the moment, so nurturing her own family was not a bad thing. After settling everything, Yi Chen left Planet Flame. Returning to God Paradise, Yi Chen immediately entered the Time Tower. The first 3 postures of Hidden Dragon secret art were Golden Rooster seeking Tao, parting clouds, and suddenly turning head. The 4th posture was called Heaven and Earth interweaving. This posture was related to the yin and yang within the body. When yin and yang combined, Taiji would be born. 1 day in the Time Tower was 100 days in the outside world. Yi Chen had learned Heaven and Earth interweaving, and he felt the hidden potential in his body surging like a tide. The 5th posture of Hidden Dragon's secret art was Flower Pinching Instant. This posture was very difficult. It was about the combination of movement and stillness, and it even involved the principles of the universe. However, in terms of stimulating potential, it was a step further. At that moment, Yi Chen felt that the only thing left in the world was his flower-pinching hand. Everything else had disappeared. As for the sixth posture, it was a checkpoint. As long as he learned this posture, Yi Chen could be considered to have entered the palace of Hidden Dragon secret art and excavated the true mystery of the Hidden Dragon secret art. Hidden Dragon rises from the abyss. This was the name of the sixth posture. Crackle, crackle. Popping sounds came from Yi Chen's body continuously. The sounds extended from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. The motionless Yi Chen closed his eyes. However, in his perception, he seemed to be soaring from the depths of the dark underground. Nothing could stop him. Correspondingly, his potential was also soaring and subliming. Chapter 1133. Bang! After an unknown amount of time, Yi Chen's body suddenly emitted a silvery radiance that seemed to have materialized. Anyone familiar with Selfless Realm would know that this was the second stage of Selfless Realm, Selfless Body. The second stage of Selfless Realm was divided into two paths. One was Selfless Heavenly Eye, and the other was Selfless Body. The pupils of Selfless Heavenly Eye would be golden, while the body would emit a silvery radiance. Once one reached the Selfless Body realm, it meant that one's potential had been stimulated to the limit. One more step would be the highest realm, Selfless Emperor. This silvery radiance represented the flame of potential. The brighter the silvery radiance, the stronger the potential. Slowly opening his eyes, his black pupils were dyed a deep silver, cold and emotionless. The corners of his eyes also seemed to have become much sharper, long and narrow like blades. Yi Chen inwardly thought, worthy of the Selfless Body. The combination of Jin Yuan and potential is like water and milk. My battle strength should have increased by about 2 folds. The first stage of Selfless Realm was not as powerful as the Secret Art 3 Flower Borrowing Dao, which was about 70 to 80%. The second stage would increase it by 2 folds, and the third stage would increase it by 5 folds. As for surpassing Selfless Realm and condensing the Emperor's Mark, that would be quite an exaggeration. Of course, although Yi Chen's battle strength had increased from 70 to 80%, the overall improvement was not that big. 3-star purple gold rank commander had the strength of a high-level combat emperor, and the gap between the most ordinary high-level combat emperor and the strongest high-level combat emperor was at least 10 folds. If Yi Chen was a mid-level high-level combat emperor before, he was now almost at the high level. There was still a long way to go before he could break through to the peak-level combat emperor realm. One had to admit that martial skills were the best way to rapidly increase one's strength. As long as one comprehended it, one's battle strength might increase by 10 or 20 folds. Without exaggeration, if one could comprehend a 5th revolution martial skill at the first layer of life and death realm, defeating a titled monarch would be as easy as waving one's hand. It should be known that a 5th revolution martial skill was more than 10,000 times more powerful than a 3rd revolution martial skill. For any martial skill, every time a profound was fused, its destructive power would increase exponentially. Moreover, the further one went, the more obvious it became. The reason why Yi Chen could possess his current strength was closely related to the 3rd revolution limit sword art. As for speeding up the progress of martial skills, one had to first raise one's cultivation base. The higher one's cultivation base was, the stronger one's perception would be. It was impossible for a 5th layer life and death king's perception to surpass a 9th layer life and death sovereign. It was said that every single 9th layer life and death sovereign had comprehended a supreme martial skill. The so-called peerless martial arts were the perfect martial arts. The fusion of Upanishads was perfect. For example, life and death, 5 elements, yin and yang, time and space, earth, water, fire, wind, light and darkness. Supreme martial skills were the pinnacle of martial skills. Although a martial skill containing life and death profound seemed to be a 2nd revolution martial skill on the surface, it was only on the surface. Even if one could fuse 6 kinds of Upanishads and comprehend a 6th revolution martial skill, its lethality would still be far inferior to Life and Death Profound. Life and Death Profound contained too much. It had already formed a reincarnation cycle, and one's 6 kinds of Upanishads could not surpass Life and Death Profound. Unfortunately, supreme martial arts were too hard to comprehend. Yi Chen's Yin Profound and Yang Profound had already reached perfection, and his 5 elements Profound had also reached perfection. However, if he wanted to fuse them into a martial art, it would be as hard as ascending to the heavens. Of course, supreme martial skills also had different levels. Someone who had just comprehended a Life and Death Profound would certainly not be able to compare with someone who had comprehended it for a long time. Talking about this was too far away. Yi Chen had just climbed a small mountain, and was still far away from the summit. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 100 months had passed in the Time Tower, which was equivalent to 1 month in the outside world. Yi Chen finally learned the 7th position of Hidden Dragon Sutra. The 7th position of the Hidden Dragon art is called Soaring Dragon in the Sky. To ordinary people, this position is so rare that it makes one's hair stand on end. This position is about absolute freedom and absolute will. Although my body doesn't move, my heart is like a soaring dragon soaring into the sky, soaring through the 9 heavens. My will runs through the heaven and earth. Hidden Dragon Rises from the Abyss had stimulated all of his potential, while Soaring Dragon in the Sky had fermented this potential and refined it to the point of being reborn. At this point, he was merely a step away from the 3rd stage of selfless state, Selfless Emperor. Almost there. Yi Chen continued to comprehend the 8th position of Hidden Dragon Sutra, rebuking the wind and clouds. The dragon flew up into the sky and began to command the wind and clouds. The 8th posture was about how to unleash one's potential to the extreme and enter a mysterious state where everything in the world revolved around one. When Yi Chen was comprehending Hidden Dragon Sutra in the Time Tower, the Paradise of Gods Hotel became boisterous. There were still 3 to 4 days before the high-ranking members entered the hunting tower. Most of the high-ranking members were in the hotel, including the members of the Exorcist Squad. Thousand Arrow Monarch, are you telling the truth? Did Yi Chen kill Mola King? Mola King has the strength of a low-level combat emperor. Even a mid-level combat emperor would have a hard time killing him. Mola King could have easily escaped. That's right. No matter how fast Yi Chen improves, he shouldn't be this abnormal. Most of the people were still skeptical. Zhong Yinyin sneered, "Why would I lie to you? To tell you the truth, killing Mole King is not even worth mentioning. Right now, he is a 3-star purple gold commander. He has already chosen a 3rd-grade life planet's main city as his territory. Are you all scared out of your wits? What? 3-star purple gold commander? Killing the Mole King had already aroused many people's suspicions, but becoming a 3-star purple gold rank commander left everyone dumbfounded. In the entire Paradise of Gods, only the Sky Marshal King was a 2-star purple gold commander. This time, it was said that the Vermilion Bird King and the Divine Blade King had also become 1-star purple gold commanders, but compared to the 3-star purple gold commanders, they were undoubtedly insignificant. A 1-star purple gold commander was equivalent to a low-level combat emperor, a 2-star purple gold commander was equivalent to a mid-level combat emperor, and a 3-star purple gold commander was equivalent to a high-level combat emperor. Let alone the Paradise of God, there were only a few high-level combat emperors in the entire high-rank hunting battlefield. The Goddess of Darkness from the Demons, God Bless Queen, was one of them. The Paradise of God was at a disadvantage in the high-rank hunting battlefield. Why? It was because they didn't have anyone who could control the situation. They didn't have any absolute experts, and they didn't have many people. For example, the demons had God Bless Queen, the barbarian race had Barbarian Bone King, and the Yaksha race had Blood Spear King. These 3 were collectively known as the 3 great combat emperors in the high-rank hunting battlefield. They were leaders, and with them around, the others could only run away. If they weren't fast enough, they would naturally die. The Paradise of God Bless Queen and Blood Spear King had accumulated to more than 10 quasi-emperors and a few combat emperors. If this continued, their overall strength would become weaker and weaker, and it would be very difficult for them to make a comeback. Now, they finally had a leader. Yi Chen's existence could guarantee the paradise of God's position and prevent them from becoming weaker. Chapter 1134. High-level battle emperor strength. This Yi Chen is truly powerful. In a private room of the restaurant, Martial King, Vermilion Bird King, and Divine Blade King were drinking. After hearing the news, Martial King couldn't help but praise. Vermilion Bird King nodded, surpassing us in less than 10 years. I'm afraid most 9th layer Life and Death Realm Supremes couldn't do it when they were young. 9th layer Life and Death Realm Supremes were all geniuses and monstrous geniuses. When they were young, they were undoubtedly the heaven's proud sons and daughters, the leaders of the young generation. However, compared to Yi Chen, they were a lot inferior. Only a few Supremes could compare to Yi Chen when they were young. Martial King, you can now attack the 7th layer without worry. Divine Blade King looked at Martial King and said, "Yeah." Martial King smiled, "As long as I condense the Emperor's mark, I can enter the 7th layer at any time." In fact, if Martial King had thought about it, he would have had absolute confidence in attacking the 7th layer a few years ago. However, he couldn't let go of his team, couldn't let go of the high-level members of God Paradise. Although he was only a mid-level battle emperor and couldn't compare to the 3 battle emperors in the high-level hunting battlefield, with him here, he could at least stall for a bit. Divine Blade King and Vermilion Bird King were low-level battle emperors and couldn't reach Martial King's level for the time being. If they encountered a high-level battle emperor and didn't escape in time, they would have a 90% chance of dying. Of course, the God Paradise had too many benefits. Rushing to the 7th life and death realm might not be a good thing. It should be known that once one succeeded, they would be teleported out of the God Paradise. From then on, they would no longer be able to enjoy the benefits of the Time Tower and Martial Tower. However, to Cheongwu King, this kind of benefit was dispensable because he had reached a real limit. Under the limit, it was impossible for him to make much progress in the paradise of gods. Everyone had their own limit. Some people had the strength of a high-level combat emperor before breaking through to the 7th layer of life and death realm. Some had the strength of a mid-level combat emperor, some had the strength of a low-level combat emperor, some had the strength of a pseudo-emperor, some had the strength of the 8th floor of the God of War pagoda, and some had the strength of the 7th floor. Once this limit was reached, even if one were to put in 100 times the effort, it would still be useless. Rather than wasting time on unrealistic fantasies, it would be better to wisely enter the 7th layer of life and death realm. After all, after becoming a titled monarch, one's perception would greatly increase, and the so-called limits would vanish like smoke in thin air. This would save one's time and not waste it in vain. Congratulations, you're finally leaving the paradise of gods. The Vermilion Bird King raised his cup and took a sip. King Cheongwu shook his head and smiled. Don't make it sound like the paradise of gods is a barren land. No matter what, this is a sacred land for geniuses. Letting out a sigh, the Vermilion Bird King said, "The paradise of gods is a sacred land for geniuses, but it is also a cage. I've forgotten the taste of adventure." Hearing these words, Cheongwu King and Divine Blade King turned silent. Indeed, they had forgotten the taste of adventure. Ever since they became members of the paradise of gods, they had basically never taken any risks. At most, they had joined the army and fought against enemies. It should be known that before entering the paradise of gods, all of them had rich experiences. Starry sky secret realms, cosmic wonders, strange planets, cosmic beasts. There were many dangerous places in the universe, but there were even more wonderful places. Even if they spent their entire lives, they wouldn't be able to explore even 1/10,000th of the universe. However, since the paradise of gods had to conduct a hunt every once in a while, they couldn't afford to be delayed by taking risks. After all, there were some dangerous places that could last for decades or even centuries. Let's not talk about this. Soon, we'll also leave the paradise of gods. Right now, we should treasure our time here. Divine Blade King was very open-minded and raised his cup to toast. You're right, our lives are still long. The Vermilion Bird King smiled. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the senior members to enter the hunting tower. Yi Chen had already come out of the Tower of Time and met up with the other members of the Evil Hunter Squad. The Evil Hunter Squad was now the #1 squad in the Paradise of Gods. As for whether they were the #1 squad in the senior hunting battleground, it still needed time to test. Let's go. Let's go. The group of 7 entered the hunting tower. On the huge hunting planet, Yi Chen's group of 7 appeared in a dense forest. The dense forest of the hunting planet was very dangerous. Not only were there god insects, but there were also many man-eating plants, such as emperor flowers, bewitching plants, king-class man-eating trees, etc. Yuan Hong was a bit unlucky. He was almost dragged into the depths of the ground by a few black vines. It should be known that the ground of the hunting planet was very hard. A random handful of soil weighed tens of thousands of kilograms. If Yuan Hong was dragged into the depths of the ground, it would be difficult for him to escape. At the critical moment, Zhong Yinyin used Death Coil to entangle the black vines and pulled Yuan Hong back. That was really dangerous. Yuan Hong wiped his sweat. Regardless of whether it was on the hunting planet or in the outer universe, these black vines were very famous. They were called Death God vines. They were even more famous than emperor flowers. It was said that a matured Death God vine could entangle hundreds or even thousands of planets. Once someone entered its attack range, they would most likely die. Fortunately, there weren't many Death God vines on the hunting planet. This was the second time the Evil Hunter Squad encountered one. Very quickly, 2 days passed. Within 2 days, the Evil Hunter Squad killed 9 normal god insects and 3 elite god insects. They had earned 75,000 shunbi. We finally encountered a commander-class god insect. On the morning of the 3rd day, the Evil Hunter Squad encountered their first commander-class god insect. Commander-class god insects had the strength of a combat emperor. Of course, there were differences in strength. The weaker ones were equivalent to beginner combat emperors. The stronger ones might be equivalent to peak combat emperors. The Evil Hunter Squad encountered this commander-class god insect. It looked like a vicious hound, but it had 6 legs, 4 pairs of transparent wings, and hundreds of eyes on its forehead. It was truly a modified monster. The other members of the Evil Hunter Squad stopped at a distance. Facing a commander-class god insect, not only would they not be able to help, they might even die. Yi Chen alone was enough. Roar! The evil hound god insect flapped its 4 pairs of transparent wings and fiercely pounced over. The powerful airflow blew all the nearby trees into the sky, creating a scene of flying sand and rocks. When the evil hound god insect was less than 1,000 meters away from Yi Chen made his move. He unsheathed the dragon spring sword and slashed. Bang! The evil hound god insect was sent flying. In the next instant, its huge body started burning and turned into ashes. True Inferno sword. So powerful. Liu Di opened his mouth. This sword art is too powerful. As expected of a peak 3rd revolution sword art. The 1,000 Arrow King could feel the power contained in this sword. A commander-class god insect was worth 30,000 shunbi. The Evil Hunter Squad once again made a small profit. Of course, the one who contributed the most was Yi Chen, and the one who got the most was Yi Chen. On the 5th day, the Evil Hunter Squad had killed 18 ordinary god insects, 7 elite god insects, and 2 commander-class god insects. The total profit was 220,000 shunbi. Yi Chen contributed 25 shunbi, so he got about 80,000 shunbi. At this rate of earning shunbi, it wouldn't take many years for Yi Chen to have 1,000,000 shunbi, which he could then exchange for a mid-level Heavenly King set. In terms of defense, a low-level Heavenly King set was equivalent to a top-level Heavenly King set, while a mid-level Heavenly King set was equivalent to an ordinary Emperor set. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that if a demi-emperor wore a mid-level Heavenly King set, most combat emperors wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, 1,000,000 shunbi was an astronomical figure for combat emperors. On the 6th day, the Evil Hunter Squad finally encountered an enemy squad. This squad was from the Evil God Paradise. They were called the Blood Sea Squad, and their captain was only a peak demi-emperor. Run! After a few rounds of fighting, the members of the Blood Sea Squad started to flee frantically. Yi Chen was too powerful. He killed 3 of their members with a single slash. This was clearly the strength of a combat emperor, and not a beginner combat emperor, but at least a middle combat emperor. Chase, don't let them escape. Under the leadership of Yi Chen, the evil hunter squad chased after them with all their might. As time passed, Yi Chen killed another member of the Bloodsea squad. The enemy was left with 3 members, and they had suffered heavy losses. Bloodspear King, save us. The captain of the Bloodsea squad shouted urgently. In the distance, another squad appeared. This squad was famous in the high-grade hunting battlefield. It was the Bloodspear squad from the Yakshaw Paradise. Their captain was one of the 3 combat emperors in the high-grade hunting battlefield, Bloodspear King. Bloodspear King was the same as the god-blessed queen. He was the nightmare of the paradise of gods. In the past 200 years, he had killed countless demi-emperors, and even a few combat emperors. It's the captain of the Bloodsea squad. One of the members of the Bloodspear squad recognized the captain. The paradise of gods chasing them seems to be the evil hunter squad. Since when did the evil hunter squad become so powerful? Only 3 members of the Bloodsea squad remain. Another member said doubtfully, "Let's go take a look." Bloodspear King increased his speed and rushed over. "Bloodsea King, what's going on?" Bloodspear King asked after meeting up with the captain. In the high-grade hunting battlefield, the demons, evil spirit race, and Yakshaw race were allies. Humans, barbarians, and giants were allies. Allies naturally had to help each other unless the enemy was too powerful. Bloodsea King said with a pale face, "One of the members of the evil hunter squad is a combat emperor. I suspect he has the strength of a mid-combat emperor. We lost 4 members." Bloodsea King's heart was bleeding. 4 members. This was not something that could grow up in a short period of time. Mid-combat emperor? Bloodspear King looked at the approaching evil hunter squad. Ultimately, his gaze fell on Yi Chen. Only Yi Chen could give him a trace of threat, even though Yi Chen's cultivation base was only at the 5th layer of life and death realm. That's him. Bloodsea King's gaze also firmly stared at Yi Chen. Be careful, he is Bloodspear King, one of the 3 combat emperors in the high-grade hunting battlefield. Thousand Arrow King warned Yi Chen. A person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. Although Yi Chen was also a high-level combat emperor, his fame was not as great as Bloodspear King's. Chapter 1135. Nodding, Yi Chen naturally wouldn't look down on Bloodspear King. The gap between high-level battle emperors wasn't that big. Bloodspear King had already been a low-level battle emperor 200 years ago, reaching mid-level in 140 years, and high-level 50 years ago. In these 50 years, he clearly wouldn't have stopped improving. Otherwise, he wouldn't have needed to stay in Yakshaw God Paradise. With his talent, he would have long since broken through to the 7th layer. Of course, it couldn't be ruled out that Bloodspear King wanted to earn more Shunbi to exchange for a higher-level Heavenly King set. Above mid-level Heavenly King set, there were still high-level and peak-level Heavenly King set. The amount of Shunbi required was astronomical even for battle emperors. Bloodspear King, don't kill nameless people. State your name. A 2-meter-long blood-colored spear appeared in Bloodspear King's hand. The spearhead was like the fangs of a viper, emitting a gloomy and austere aura. "You don't need to know my name," Yi Chen indifferently said while holding the dragon spring sword's hilt with his right hand. "HMPH, arrogant. Then die." Bloodspear King didn't waste any more words with Yi Chen. He instantly entered the Anatta Emperor realm, increasing his battle power by 5 times. Holding the blood-colored spear with both hands, he crazily stabbed out. In a blink of an eye, he had stabbed out at least several hundred times. The blood-colored spear shadows transformed into blood-colored vipers midway, pouncing toward Yi Chen. Bloodspear King's 3rd revolution martial skill, 100 Vipers Flurry. Facing this move that relied on quantity to win, Yi Chen didn't dare to be negligent. He opened the Anatta Emperor realm, and a layer of deep silver with a hint of gold radiance appeared on his body. He unsheathed the dragon spring sword and unleashed a true inferno sword chi. Crackle! Countless blood-colored vipers were incinerated like snow under the scorching sun. Without a sound, the raging sword chi broke through layer after layer of obstacles and appeared before Blood Spear King. Blood Spear King coldly snorted and shook his spear, creating a blood-colored spear flower. The next moment, a scorching shockwave blasted Blood Spear King dozens of li away. What? The captain of the Blood Sea battle team, Blood Sea King, widened his eyes in disbelief. The Blood Spear Monarch was a true advanced combat emperor, but he was sent flying in his first exchange with Yi Chen. Didn't this mean that Yi Chen was stronger than the Blood Spear Monarch? The Blood Spear King's face was ashen. He had not expected that Yi Chen's sword would have such a powerful aftershock. If not for his Heavenly King set, he would definitely have been injured. Mid-level Heavenly King set. Yi Chen squinted his eyes. Bloodlance Monarch wasn't wearing a low-class Heavenly King set, but a mid-class Heavenly King set. In terms of defense, a mid-class Heavenly King set was equivalent to an Emperor armor. It wasn't something that could be broken by ordinary people. Otherwise, Bloodlance Monarch wouldn't be unscathed. After a few months of training, Yi Chen's strength had reached the peak of a high-class combat emperor. Snake Dragon Flash. Relying on his mid-class Heavenly King set, the Blood Spear King attacked Yi Chen again. This time, he used a rank 3 martial art that was stronger than the 100 Snake Flurry, Snake Dragon Flash. A blood-colored spear light flashed and a poisonous snake turned into a blood dragon, pouncing towards Yi Chen. Looking at its posture, its penetrating power seemed to be very strong. Yi Chen neither retreated nor dodged. He raised the dragon spring sword high above his head and slashed forcefully. The dazzling sword aura contained a trace of black, easily splitting the blood dragon. The Blood Spear King only had time to move a few meters to the side before he was hit by the sword aura. The True Inferno Sword was different from the True Inferno Sword. The True Inferno Sword's strength lay in its momentum, and if the first wave was barely blocked, the second wave would definitely not be able to block it. If the first wave could be completely blocked, the second wave would probably not be able to do anything to him. For example, although the Blood Spear King was wearing a mid-level Heavenly King set, with his power, he could also block the True Inferno Sword, and at most suffer some minor injuries. However, the Extreme Sun Essence was different. The Extreme Sun Essence was able to transform the essence of the sun into the most extreme power to attack the enemy. In terms of offense, it was undoubtedly more powerful than the True Inferno Sword. The sound of metal exploding was heard. Originally, the Blood Spear King's mid-class Heavenly King set had been refined into his body. However, after suffering such a huge attack, the Heavenly King set was suddenly revealed, shining with a golden red light. TSK, that's 1 million divine coins. Sima Fei's face revealed an envious expression. He wasn't surprised that Yi Chen could gain the upper hand. After all, he didn't think that Yi Chen was weaker than the Blood Spear King. They were both on the same level. A several li-long passage was blasted through the dense forest. At the end of the passage, the Blood Spear King stood up with his face covered in dirt. Under his feet was a huge pit. The soil had turned into sand and was emitting a blazing heat. The hunting star had 1/10 of the gravity of a white dwarf star. Although the objects here were not as abnormal as white dwarfs, with density not even 1/100th, they were still not that easy to destroy. The Blood Spear King only felt a small portion of the energy in his body being consumed. The majority of it was used to power the Heavenly King set. Blood God All. A red light flickered in his eyes as the Blood Spear King launched a soul attack at Yi Chen. A blood all formed from soul power shot out. Yi Chen naturally didn't fear the Blood Spear King's soul attack. In terms of battle power, his soul attack wasn't the least bit inferior, and was even more direct. Of course, soul attacks were rarely used in battles between life and death kings. Soul attacks consumed a lot of soul power, and the number of times they could be used was limited. When the soul power dropped to a certain level, it would affect one's state, and all aspects of one's constitution would decline. Therefore, although soul attack secret arts were extremely important, they were mostly left unused, and could only be used a few times a year. However, if one thought that soul attacks weren't used often, they wouldn't cultivate it. This was a very foolish action. Life and Death Kings didn't just need to be strong on the surface, but also in all other aspects. Simply speaking, one couldn't have any shortcomings, because they were the biggest flaws. Compared to soul defense, soul attacks were sometimes more important. Not only could they counteract the enemy's soul attack, they could also attack the enemy's soul. Puff. The invisible blood all was dispersed by a soul sword chi before it could even approach Yi Chen. The remnant sword chi ripples even radiated toward the Blood Spear King. The Blood Spear King let out a muffled groan, his face turning pale. Although he had already arranged 3 layers of soul defense, the sword chi ripples formed from soul power were still frightening. 2 of the 3 layers of soul defense had actually been broken through. If not for the Blood God All's counteracting effect, wouldn't it have easily cut through his soul defense? His guess wasn't wrong. The complete soul sword chi could indeed break through his soul defense. Just as the first soul sword chi was sent out, the second one came right after. Taking advantage of Blood Spear King's soul power being shaken, it ruthlessly slashed over. An earth-shattering sound resounded in Blood Spear King's mind as blood flowed out from his 7 apertures. His soul defense had been thoroughly broken through, and a huge sword scar had appeared in his sea of soul. The sword scar seemed to have been carved into his sea of soul, and was difficult to recover from. Go! Without any hesitation, Blood Spear King soared into the sky and fled into the distance. He was scared. Although Yi Chen couldn't break through his mid-level Heavenly King grade armor, he could heavily injure his soul with soul attacks. He was even more freakish than God-blessed Queen. Seeing Blood Spear King fleeing in a sorry state, the others naturally followed without saying a word. However, among the 3 members of Bloodsea battle team, 2 were a step too slow and were slashed into ashes by Yi Chen. Only Bloodsea King managed to escape alive. It was not that Yi Chen didn't want to chase after Blood Spear King. In a one-on-one situation, he could easily heavily injure the opponent's soul and then slowly grind him to death. However, Blood Spear King still had 6 members and 3 members of Bloodsea battle team. Once he consumed too much soul power and was hit by a few soul attacks, the one in danger would be himself. In a group battle, one had to be cautious when using soul attacks. No one could use soul attacks limitlessly. Normally, Life and Death Kings could only use soul attacks 3 times. Of course, if one cultivated a powerful soul attack secret art, they might only be able to use it once. After that, their soul power would be completely exhausted. Yi Chen's limit was 5 times. After 5 times, his soul power would fall below the warning line. As for using ordinary soul attacks, he might as well not use them at all. All in all, Yi Chen's soul power was 10 times that of the majority of Life and Death Kings. This majority of Life and Death Kings didn't include the members of True God Paradise. Which member of True God Paradise wasn't an elite among geniuses? Their soul power was equally powerful, and Yi Chen wouldn't be that much stronger than them. Killing 6 members of Bloodsea battle team, he obtained 900,000 divine coins. Adding the 220,000 from before, he had a total of 1,1220,000. Yi Chen's contribution was 50, so he could obtain 800,000 divine coins. Without a doubt, this was a huge harvest. In the future, it would be hard to encounter such a person. Once one's fame rose, the enemies would flee the moment they encountered you. Nobody was an idiot. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.